4, 3, 2, 1. People of Earth, it is 10:11 p.m. EST on March 12th, 2023. Mide presents Fortuitous Footnotes 2014. It's your boy, Chris Kennard, with the brother from another mother, the living abstraction, aka Arkintel, aka Aelore, and joining us for the first time, big brother, singer, songwriter, guitarist, Benjamin Booker. Welcome aboard. Good evening to you both. How are you?
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is
Hey,
ours.
thank you so much for offering and accepting every single way forward. But believe me, it is completely to say it's surreal would be a massive understatement.
I have to give a shout out to Brian Eno.
Ooh, the God.
When I was doing research for this recent album I was working on, I like to look up interviews, and listen to what people have to say, And a lot of people just do kind of big press interviews, but Brian Eno talks to everybody, you know what I mean? You see him talking to people with 30 views on their channel, but it helps people like me, you know what I mean? So I'm here for it. Whatever you guys need, yeah, let's do it.
Uh,
Word.
so
Oh, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
mean, so usually when we do the show, we kind of, we make an introduction about the year we're talking about, and I guess kind of like our relationship with music in that year. And geez, I mean, 2014 was quite an interesting quite an interesting year. I mean, yes, there was what was really kind of blowing up in the in the mainstream. I mean, I know Sia was like making it pretty big at that time. And if you like if white people's awkward attempts at reggae is your jam, that Rude song by Magic, that was pretty big. My opinion on it, no comments, but it was a pretty big song at that time. But
Big Buck Store
um
Core.
yeah, that was, man, that I mean, okay, there's a comment I usually make when we talk about like that Daniel Powder Bad Day song, when I'm like, wow, man, where it's like as soon as you listen to a song, it's like, oh wow, this person is absolutely going to become a one-hit wonder. And that's all I can
See,
say.
but that
That's all
song
I'm
is
gonna
still
say.
good, though. Quiet as Kept, that
True.
song isn't even bad. I'm not even going to front. And like, I think it's maybe like my middle school nostalgia that keeps me from like shitting on Bad Day. But like, son, like, as a long suffering retail soldier, like I appreciate like the attempt.
Yeah,
People really go into music for different things. Over the years, I learned that I was really into writing, which is what got me into music. You know what I mean? People were writing these short things that I was into. But some people really just they maybe the only thing that they listen to is the melody or just the energy that they get from something, and that's all that they care about. Or they
Yeah.
just see people making money, and that's all that they think that music is. And it's not a slight on them. I'm just saying that that's how they see it. It's odd to me because there's so much more. But what can you do?
and
Aylor,
okay, and
you know,
okay,
go ahead.
and okay, so and I guess like in terms of talking about the music, the music that we tend to talk about, because I think one thing I definitely pride in terms of like both Chris and I's relationship with stuff. We very much try to like stick with things that we absolutely know both A, resonated with us back then, and B, still speak to us and the journeys that we're going through as people now. Like it would be really easy to just kind of like to just kind of be to just kind of say, oh, like I don't know, like, oh, hey, this song that Drake did, and this not a shade on Drake, but that
I
was
all
who was
agree.
really who was really popping then. But like to be like, oh, hey, this Drake song was what we were all about back then. But we have to be honest with ourselves. We were not about we were not living the Drake life back then. We were acknowledging the Drake life. Drake would be a host on SNL around that year, and he was kind of funny,
Yeah. One
but
dance.
we were not living that life. And actually a more accurate a more accurate approximation of the kind of life I was living would be with I guess should this be the first song we talk about, the Freddie Gibbs song?
Before we get into the weeds, I just want to make sure, for those who didn't go into like the description and things of that nature, the fortuitous wow, I can't even say the word. The fortuitous footnotes of 2014 include but are not limited to "Boy in Love" by BTS, "Fall in Love" by Fantagram, "Gust of Wind" by Pharrell Williams, "Crescent" by Animals as Leaders, "I Know the Law" by Wyoke, "Digital Witness" by St. Vincent, "Rich as Gangsta" by Rick Ross, "Deeper" by Freddie Gibbs and Madlib, "Never" by Patty Crash and The Roots, "Have You Seen My Son" by Benjamin Booker, "Repeat Pleasure" by How to Dress Well, "I" by Kendrick Lamar, "Heavy Seas of Love" by Damon Albarn, and "It's Holy" by Veruca Salt. Since there are 14 songs, and I know how these streams tend to go, we're only going to do about 7, so that will be 1 of mine and 6 of Aelor's today. The only thing we're not going to talk about on Aelor's list will be "It's Holy," because that's my favorite song that he selected, and I want it all to myself. So we'll probably do Damon, Kendrick, How to Dress, Ben here, The Roots, Freddie, and the Lemon Pepper General himself, Rick Ross.
Yes.
Have you guys had lemon pepper wings before? Sorry, it's a quick side note. Have you had lemon pepper wings before?
I haven't had the ones from Wingstop, but I need my goal is to just find.
The ones from Wingstop are not the ones. Those are not the ones. If you go to Atlanta, there's a place called JR Crickets. Those are the ones.
I have heard of this spot. It is on my bucket list.
It's on Atlanta. You can see it on the show. It's worth it.
Yeah, I remember that part.
One trip, like a weekend. I was like, boom, boom. I felt sick after both times going, and still went back. It's
cultural touchstone.
Hey, yeah. I did.
It's all good. It's like the lemon pepper wet.
I completely get it. I remember one night I gorged on like 15 like mega atomic wings. Woke up, really wanted to throw up. Somehow didn't. And the first thought on my mind was, I'm probably gonna do this again.
Yeah.
Just think back to the time, like at the heat of the panorama, that one brother who was like in the NBA bubble stepped out on like some family business, and like on the way back to the bubble, stopped off at Magic City for some wings, and the NBA was pressing him, and all of Twitter was like, listen, slide through for the wings and you won't be talking crazy about the kid. He's like, he's not wrong though, the wings is crazy.
People do crazy things with food, yeah.
Absolutely understood, man. Absolutely understood.
I guess, yeah, we probably could start with like the Freddie record if y'all want to.
Freddie, let's do Freddie. Although that is a very that one, I don't know how you guys want to do this, because that one is very complicated. Like I honestly cannot think of a more complicated song. Just like in terms of all of the things that you could talk about, like literally you could do a semester class on this song. But I don't know if do you guys like pick lines that you like out? Do you go line by line?
We
could do that. We could get into it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we can let's move if you want to move, because it might be too much if we go hard, if we go too hard.
Is like, I'll tell you this, Aelor. It's like if we get into like if we get into like these two, the Rick Ross and the Freddie, and like we go for an hour and a half, I will be completely satisfied. I'll say that much personally.
What if we
before?
What if we do all of the? You're doing 7. What if we do all 6 and then save Freddie for last?
Oh, close, Freddie. I'm with it. I'm with it.
And then we can go as long as we
Okay.
want.
Man, let's get it.
Okay. So okay. So I guess when we get Freddie out of the way, and do you want to Chris? Would you like to start? Okay, we'll get Freddie out of the way now, but do you want to still start on my end?
So was K Dot because that's the easiest one.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Okay. So Kendrick. Okay. So Kendrick Lamar. Already in the complete home run of Good Kid, Mad City. Should have won the Best Rap Grammy. No disrespect to Macklemore. I get that's just how these things are. But all respect. Should have won the Best Rap Album Grammy.
Disrespect to Macklemore. Disrespect to Macklemore.
That is speaking. Period.
All good. But yeah, Kendrick was really kind of like in a home run period, and I would say from me as an observer, it really looked like the train was not stopping, and he completely showed that the train had no plans on stopping when he dropped this single, which truly a magical song. Okay, yes. Okay, yes. Another hip-hop song had already sampled I think a bunch of hip-hop songs had already sampled Isley Brothers, Who's That Lady, shout out to the Beastie Boys, and Year and a Day. But in taking this and really utilizing the sample well, Kendrick would drop a brilliant song about the struggles between self-empowerment and trying to uplift your self-esteem versus also understanding your own personal demons and all of that. And a song that would end up becoming a pretty big hit. You would see it in a whole bunch of movie trailers, like the Denzel Washington Roman-esque SQ movie, which nobody saw, but whatever. That Robert De Niro, and it's a good movie, but like nobody saw it. Like that Robert De Niro, Anne Hathaway, I think Nancy Meyers rom-com called The Intern, which is which is actually good, which is actually pretty good. If you ever wanted to watch a kind of spiritual sequel to Devil Wears Prada, shout out to that movie. And it was a song that was really embraced by the mainstream. Kendrick would also do an amazing performance on Saturday Night Live back in 2014 when I think it was Woody Harrelson was the host, which I always remember that because I was watching it with my mother, and my mom was and like Kendrick, who is just full on indie moment, full on energy and everything. And my mom was like, is this guy on drugs or something? I was like, no, that's just how he is, man. That's just how he is.
Kenny.
Yeah, and just truly, really a magical song. I guess, I mean, since you're a special guest, Mr. Booker, what's your relationship with this song? How did you feel when you first heard it?
Well, this song from that album is not necessarily one of the songs that stands out to me the most. I'm interested in, I guess, why that song?
Oh, well,
yeah, take it because like that was your decision, my boy.
I'm getting coffee and listening while you're doing this.
You're good.
Okay. So, all right. So I guess because I specifically chose the single version as opposed to the album version.
Obviously.
Okay, because the single version actually came out in 2014, and I'm like a huge stickler for these for making sure that we are consistent within years and everything. And I guess, I mean, there is an interesting dichotomy between the single and the album version. The single version is it's a very clear very clear cut version. It's like very much this idea of self improvement, and writing yourself through difficult moments. Whereas the album version, it evokes an interesting kind of memory. Kendrick could be kind of considered like hip hop's one of hip hop's many answers to James Brown, and the album version of it somehow, in an odd way, is somewhat reminiscent of the James Brown concert that he did like after the assassination of Dr. King, where he's trying to have this huge benefit concert, but and while he's performing, people are kind of getting rowdy, and and he kind of has to be like, hey yo, like hey, we gotta,
Don't kill
we gotta like. Yeah, exactly. We gotta come together and everything. Which,
by the way,
I don't know.
We never did it. We never killed all the white people. So they should be thankful. You know what I mean? We never did it.
Well,
my point was with this album, that I was surprised that you picked swimming pools was a big one for me from that album. I was surprised that he to me it was a feat to write a song that's kind of this drinking kind of fun party song, but also kind of like a sad drinking song. You know what I mean? Like it's like you can like have fun and party and drink to it, and that people are just like kind of losing it to the song, but like also just kind of like it's about being like sad and drinking. So
to
me, that was a big
believe. Yeah, and believe me, I've known both sides. I have truly known both sides of that equation, and yeah. I mean, I like so many K Dot songs in general. It's like you want to kind of have this kind of joyous celebratory time with them, but also kind of like the deeper, sadder reality of it is like when you actually like look into the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's what everyone has always done over time. I mean, if you look at Dylan or Bruce Springsteen or any of these people, I mean, well, that's kind of the problem that I had with that last album that you held up, which is that people they don't like a lot of like, you can't just hit people with a lot of heavy stuff at one time. You know what I mean? You got to hit people with heavy, but buried in that. It has to be like buried in fun. You know what I mean? Basically, yeah. That's the only way that they'll accept it. So the good people over time have always been able to do that. That's a lesson that I would say that I learned from working in the past, and something that I try to work in the future. It's like you can look at somebody like the Talking Heads. That's somebody that I was talking about recently with somebody. It's like this is a band that is one of the funkiest bands of all time, and because of that, they are able to do stuff like he can pretend to be a preacher and just rant random things over a song, or I mean, like they can do crazy things because the rhythm is there and be experimental. So I think that Kendrick understands that, and that's why he can appeal to a large audience and give them these complex issues. That's the genius, really, of what he's able to do. That's what greats have always been able to do. You know what I mean? If you're talking about Kurt Cobain, Lou Reed, anybody who's good can do those two things at the same time. You know what I mean?
Hey, Lore, I wanted to like tag in only for a couple of things, only to say that when Ben mentions like, oh, like hide like the heavy things in like a Trojan horse, essentially, I think of that one record, Papa Ute by Stromae, where like you're getting that upbeat, like danceable joint, but he's talking about like traumatic loss of a father via genocide. And like me not speaking French, but I'm like, yo, what is dog talking about? But like you see the video where like folks are dancing with the fathers and he's not. And I'm like, whoa, like I want to like just like peel back the layers. And I can sit with that because I'm like, ooh, like too many of my friends and now even myself have like felt that loss. And like I can feel the comfort with just like the the just like the energy the song is trying to give me and things of that nature. And when I think about like in 2014, I worked at like a CD store, and so one of like the corporations like play these songs like for the next 6 months. And I like the video for I was on that DVD, like you see in the video, like folks start scrapping. And I think it's one of the Isley brothers is like, we're here about peace. And like, you know, Kendrick, he's dancing in the video. Like he has like that Joker moment from Dark Knight where he's hanging outside of the car on like the bridge. And like, when I really think about like rappers who had the moment, and it's like, oh, like you can say whatever and people are going to eat this up. He's like, cool, I have to say this if I say anything at all, because I feel like the single is like, oh, I may not have the crown when my next record comes out. Like who would have thought that like Pimp a Butterfly would have been the record? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, oh, in case it's not, I got to say this.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. So like I sincerely respect that part of just like the saga of Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah,
I mean, or
oh
yeah.
Please go ahead.
No, please, you're a guest.
Oh no, I completely agree with you. Also, I'm surprised that you know that Stromae song. Really digging deep over there, Chris. With the
I'll say this. I was I went to like a broadcasting school, and so a lot of my time was just spent watching music videos, just like getting lost down the rabbit hole. And I just see this brother just like dressed like real, just like his fashion sense is out of this world. Videos are out of this world.
Yeah.
Impeccable sense of humor.
Yeah.
And like, and I'm like, wow, I got to Stromae so late. And like, imagine a time where like
he's still not out. I don't think that he's not out. I only know him because when we toured, I mean, we would play in Brussels and places like that, which I think. And so I think that I would see the videos and stuff around back in the day, and like when that song was out. And at first, I really didn't like. It's very shocking at first. He's very kind of jarring. As maybe not for European audiences, but for me, I was like, "Who is this guy?" Like, and then like I kind of blew it off. But the more you go back to those videos and those kinds of things, it's as good as what you see from Dave Free working with Kendrick and those kinds of things. They're really
100%.
They're really
right. I really respect like you know, put that album out, super really good. Disappeared essentially for I think like it was 7 years or something like that, and I believe it was because he was ill.
Time to make good things takes a lot.
Yeah, and like the one he just dropped, so good. And just like there's more like I think like my favorite song like L'Enfant from that album is just like again about heavy stuff, but just like that production and like when I was working at that DVD store when Lord got the opportunity to like EP the soundtrack and like took the last song from the Stromae album and put like Q-Tip and Pusha T on the beat. And I'm just like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, like Wild. I forget what it was called, but like you had Haim on
Catching Fire.
Yeah,
like the Catching Fire Part 1. Oh yeah. I was contemplating putting one of those songs on our list, but
they're like there's some collabs on that album that like would have never happened if she didn't facilitate them. Or it's just like on the phone, like, hey Miguel, will you get a beat from the Chemical Brothers if I sent it to you? I guess. All right, bet. Give me a week. Huh?
Yeah, I said. All love to Ariana Grande, but I do not think she has ever sounded as adventurous with a beat. Well, maybe with the exception of that song she did with Pharrell that I can't remember. Who, funny enough, we'll be talking about
that one, the No Tears to Cry record.
Yeah. I don't think she's ever sounded as adventurous on the record as she did with the.
Oh, that was that Major Lazer beat, right?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, I loved it. You had that, and you also had Jeez, I can't believe I can't.
Grace Jones was on that motherfucker.
Yeah. What's that electronic synth pop trio? The Mother We Share group.
Oh, Churches.
Yeah, Churches.
Churches was on that, John.
Yeah, they had a lovely song.
They got like maybe like the last great Kanye remix on that soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because like I really
You know.
hated Yellow Flicker Beat, but Ye was like, let me
Yeah.
make this shit emo as possible, and like saved the song. And I'm like, man, like
Oh yeah, and this was like back when like Kanye and Lord were like really cool, and she had
to be
given
a
a
fly on the
massive
wall
shout.
during those conversations.
Yeah, she was like she gave like massive love to like to the Yeezus album and everything, and like how like the world was not ready, but you know they were going to be ready, and which you know what a you know what no comment, but yeah, that catching fire then was
We may
really
have to do a
really
stream just for that album alone one day.
uh yeah, you know, it's gonna have to happen. I'm just not. I just don't. It's just really kind of going to
Give it a
be
year.
difficult. Yeah. You
We
know,
should move on to
but yeah.
what song should we do next? Because that's one down. We have like 6 to go. I kind of want to get into all right, so here's what I'm thinking. We should do like Damon, How to Dress Well, The Roots, Ben, and then Freddie. No, shoot, wow, I made a mistake.
Okay.
Hold on. I see okay, we'll still do Damon, How to Dress Well,
Mhm.
uh Roots, Ben, Rick, Fred. Yes?
Cool. So yes, next
Sweet.
song,
Okay.
"Heavy Seas of Love." Heavy Seas of Love from Damon's debut solo album. I'm putting that in quotes because the thing about Damon Albarn is that he had already kind of been doing like whether or not you wanted to consider the first Gorillaz album a solo
Absolutely
album in a
not.
way, he
No.
was he was already doing stuff you could consider solo adjacent album, the Demo Crazy album, which is really just a bunch of like stuff he was tinkering around in his bedroom during a tour. Best known for the song I Need a Gun, which would then end up being repurposed into Gorilla's Dirty Harry, you know. So the thing was, Damon had
Great
already
song.
been doing a bunch of like solo-ish adjacent stuff. And the thing is, like, and I remember going through interviews like years ago, this wasn't really originally intended to be a solo album. I think it was because he was working alongside with the producer, I believe, Richard Jacques. He's like the head of XL
Oh my
Records, and
god.
all of that. And
Richard
it was
Russell.
originally kind of supposed to be. Yes. My mistake. Yes. So it was originally kind of just supposed to be a collaboration album between the two. But somewhere during production, like it's Richard basically kind of goes to basically Richard Russell basically goes to Damien and says like, hey, it's probably going to be better if this just I'm still going to work on it, but I think you're going to get more out of this if this is just a you album as opposed to the both of us, because you know, I'm not going to be out on tour doing this stuff with you. You know, you can do that. You can do that. I'm not really interested. So I think this should really kind of just be a you album. And that kind of put Damon in the spot because like Damon, you know, and once again, even though Damon had released solo songs since way back in the 90s, shout out to the Train Spotting soundtrack and everything. This was like really the first official time we ever really saw Damon as a solo artist. And Chris, thank you so much because thank you so much for putting Saint Vincent's Digital Witness on your list
You
because
already know the
uh,
vibes.
because one thing and in connecting it with Everyday Robots, one thing that Digital Witness really kind of is about how, you know, we're so connected to social media, and in our connection with social media, it seems as if it it feels as if we're part of some great big experience, some great big disorienting, if not at times dehumanizing experience. And Everyday Robots, the title track, really is kind of the flip side, because, you know, very much true to its name. It's like, we're everyday robots on our phones and all of that stuff trying to get home. If a song like Digital Witness is like really about, oh hey, you know, oh hey, we're like, here we are connected to this great big thing that's exciting, but it's also kind of like screwing us up. Everyday Robots also kind of exemplifies, but this is how we look like to every single person. I mean, I'm sure, you know, if anyone ever catches me on the train, or if I'm on the car on my, or while I'm looking at my phone, even what I was doing as I was on my way home, like, yeah, I kind of look like I'm some like android connected to a machine. But yeah, but you know, the thing about the album, there's so many, like really some I would, and you know, and not to and if you've seen a lot, Mr. Booker, if you've seen a lot of our episodes, I end up shading a certain popular internet music critic who, I don't know if I want to
Ah,
mention his name.
the melon.
It's not even out of disrespect. Yeah, it's not even out of disrespect. It's just I already mentioned that guy way too much, and I don't know if he's ever spoken about any of your works, which I mean, and if he has, I really hope he's given
Damn
it
shame if he
the high
hasn't.
scores it deserves. Yeah, if he has, I really hope he's given it the high scores it deserves. But I don't know. I
I don't
mentioned
think
that man.
I don't think that I don't think that he would like the music that I've made in the past. People who are critics, and I think that he's a good critic. They all have specific points of view. You know, things that they look for in music, like we talked about earlier. He specifically is
Mhm.
into kind of the more aggressive, visceral. Um, recordings, you know what I mean? If it doesn't have some kind of edge to it, he doesn't like it, you know what I mean? But that's kind of like a particular way to look at things. There's a jazz musician named Lester Young, who is an incredible musician, but he was all about everything being soft, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want any hard edges. So it's like he would have hated everything that Anthony Fantano loves, you know what I mean? So it's just, you have to look at everything that everybody's saying and just say, this is just his opinion, you know?
Yeah, and in it just being his opinion, I'm pretty sure he gave the Everyday Robots album like a 4, which it's like I
Well, to
understood
be
that
fair,
because yeah.
I'm not a Damon Albarn guy, and I don't think that this is a good song. To be honest with you, but
Oh, okay. I mean, granted, I know I've been rambling about a bunch of stuff because I try to kind of, like, even in talking about one song, I am kind of giving an overview of the album. I mean, you know, there's the Everyday Robots song. There's also the Mr. Tembo song, which
It's the only
he,
song from the album that I remember, only because of the video.
yes. I think one standout track is You and I, because I think that song is the closest Damon will ever come to making a prequel to one of a standout Blur song, No
Oh, you mean
Distance
You and
Left.
Me?
Yeah, you and me. No
Again, shout out to
Distance
Brian
Left.
Eno.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably the closest he'll ever come to making a prequel to Blur's No Distance Left to Run, which to anyone who's heard that song, it's basically kind of like it's basically his great big breakup song to his girlfriend at the time, Justine Frischman, best known as the lead of Elastica. It's probably the closest, because whereas No Distance was about the end of their relationship and the pain of it, You and I, even though it's really about it's really about a moment he was dabbling into drugs. It probably is probably the closest he kind of gives to an explanation for why things between him and Justine didn't work out, because them having these massive lives as the great big Britpop king and queen, and how that was just kind of driving them away. The glamorous curse, as they say, and how in doing that, they both ended up dabbling into drugs, and that can only fix so many relationships. But I say all of this beat, but the real song I want to talk about is the final song, Heavy Seas of Love. Heavy Seas of Love, which is I mean, the thing about the album, and much like a lot of Damon's output, very low tempo, not that happy, kind of pretty miserable actually. And then to end it on a song like Heavy Seas of Love, which is really about kind of trying to reclaim a sense of happiness within your life, and shout out to the Brian Eno feature, who has a very wonderful bass voice. I mean, it's quite a delivery. It leaves an album, on a happy note, where it's very acknowledging of the difficulties that life faced, but still kind of trying to put a positive spin on it. And it's interesting, segueing from that album, because like literally a year later, 2015, Damon and Blur would reunite, and they would do the Magic Whip. And I would argue Everyday Robots and Magic Whip, they're two complementary listens. If one was to listen to the two back to back. But but hey, I've been talking a whole bunch. What do you guys have to say?
I'll say this: there's a reason why Oasis was bigger than Blur. I'll say that. That's the first thing I'll say.
No argument.
Oasis is better than Blur.
Not for nothing, I can listen to like Champagne Supernova like every day for a month, and I won't get tired of it. And like, I don't know what's in the sauce, but like those Gallagher brothers were cooking.
Yeah, to me, Blur. I mean, Damon Albarn. You were talking about Damon and Richard Russell earlier. It's just like both of them are kind of people with style and not a lot of substance. To be honest with you, they both are very cool in the studio, kind of producers. But they collaborate with people because they don't have a lot to say. You know what I mean? Like that's really.
I'm glad you said that, only because there was that viral clip on TikTok, at least for me anyway, where dude from Apple Music was like, "Yo, how'd y'all make Clint Eastwood?" And dude pulls out like his little device, presses the one button. He's like, "That's how it was made." It was a preset.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That happens sometimes. That's how it works.
My mind was blown. I'm like, how dare he?
Would you say that like,
don't go for that, John?
Would you say that like in his multiple outputs, because Blur, Gorillaz, etc. Like we could pretty much dedicate this multiple shows to his various side projects. Like, do you think that he's
Gorillaz was the best?
Which one?
Gorillaz for him. Gorillaz is the best.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Like especially those first three albums. Like,
Because to me that the Britpop stuff, even their biggest. I mean, in America, their biggest song, the Woohoo song.
Song 2, the Woohoo song. Yeah,
that was them trying to do like a dumb American song. It was just like an imitation of what was already happening at the time. To me, when he started doing the Gorilla stuff was when it was like, I don't think that we've heard this kind of thing before. You know what I mean? This feels like a new kind of thing. The show very ahead of its time.
Oh yeah.
That to me made him like a real legend. Is that?
And honestly, I would agree. I would agree because it was, especially okay. The first album, mainly being between him and hip hop extraordinaire Dandy Automator, and and him and Dandy Automator, and shout out to Delta Funky Homo Sapien. They had already kind of worked on the Deltron 3000 album, but it's like, okay, you take that kind of left field indie hip hop thing that had already been introduced with the Deltron 3000 album, and then you take hook up with Jamie Hewlett, who was in his own down place because of Tank Gold the movie flopping, and you take a framework that was basically done back in the 60s with the Archie band, hey, what if we had an animated band that doesn't really exist, but someone else is doing all the stuff, and kind of play, it's concepts that kind of had been done, but like hadn't been melded together in this way. And you really just get something like completely out there. And
Yeah, he's a to me, in my mind, he's a producer, and I think it just takes people some time to find their thing. You know what I mean? Like his skill is putting people together, recording, getting, executing and getting a good final product. But in terms of him writing anything on his own and listening to it, I don't want to hear any of that. You know what I mean? I don't want to.
So what you're saying is that Damon Albarn should work for DJ Khaled.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Bet. That's all I need to hear.
Yeah.
That's all I need to hear. Shall we move on to How to Dress Well?
Yes. How to Dress Well. Okay, How to Dress Well. Okay, so in the 2010s, and
wait, hold on. I have a hot take. About How to Dress Well.
Yeah, shoot.
At first, because when I saw like the lineup, I'm like, bro, I hope this isn't the one song I already know by Homie, and it is, which I'm disappointed by, because it says to me, damn, like, because I felt like it was hyped up so much, and I'm like, I want to see what I was missing, because I saw the name, I'm like, what a great name for an act, first of all, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, what was he bringing to the table that I didn't get a chance to like experience? And hearing this song after all these years, I'm like, bro, How to Dress Well walk so the weekend could run.
Okay, yeah, and that was what I was about to get into. The 2010s was when granted, the concept had already kind of existed in the 90s and 2000s, but we had called it different names. We called it neo soul. Yeah, the concept of alternative R&B, where, and alternative.
Alternative. When people talk about alternative R&B, to me, it's honestly kind of an offensive term, because really what they're saying is, Black people, this is the R&B that you can be. If you're not going to be this kind of Black person, you're going to be this alternative kind of like weird thing. You know what I mean? It's just like there's no alternative R&B. These are just artists making music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also want to brief shout out to like formerly known as Twigs for like raising the alarm on that shit, because I don't think before her saying that anybody else was really saying it.
Did she say that? Good for her.
Yeah.
Right when the first album came out, I believe.
And I believe even Frank,
that happens to me. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff where it's like you can't. I mean, anytime that you're an artist working in a commercial field, it's like you become a product. You know what I mean? You are the product. But it feels wrong sometimes, the way that they treat people who look like us.
Oh yeah,
and then some.
And the fact that like one of like the person who can be kind of considered like the spearhead or the king of that whole subgenre, Frank Ocean, always kind of made it clear that he didn't really rock with it, and I think that kind of says all that needs to be said.
Ocean is more of a singer-songwriter at the end of the day. He's like a, you know what I mean?
Crazy.
He's not all. He's not R&B to me. For I don't think that genres make any sense anymore, anyways. But it's like he's not. He's way more like along the lines of 60s, 70s kind of singer songwriters
Oh
than
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of structurally and like melodically, those are the kinds of things that he's doing.
I definitely think
Absolutely
back to
agree.
like Frank playing Coachella for the first time, and unless I'm mistaken, like he opened his set with like some Bob Dylan type shit, and I'm
Yeah,
like this.
he thanked the Beatles on Blonde. You know what I mean? Like he was trying to make those kind of pop songs. But that's what I'm saying is just like if you're black playing music and stuff like that, it's like they're not gonna give you that. Like when I started playing
Yeah,
music, there was like a bunch of people doing like soul and like a guitar kind of stuff. The Alabama Shakes, like
Alabama
uh,
Shakes. Yeah.
yeah, other people doing that kind of stuff, whatever. But it's just like I literally had nothing in common with them. Like I when I was putting together music, I was listening to folk punk from where I was from. I was listening to Bob Dylan. I was listening to Nirvana. I was listening to some blues stuff. But it was just like I was listening to Sonic Youth. I was putting all of these things together on an album. But if you're a black artist, it's like no one's going to give you that. Me pulling from different black things is different than say like an Angel Olsen pulling from white history. I was like
talk about it.
I was I was like an act from the past, and she's a contemporary person doing something in the present. You know what I mean? Like
Yes,
the way that people perceive you is different because of the way that you present it. It's very frustrating, but it's something that you as a black artist have to be very diligent about controlling, and that's something I didn't really understand when I was younger. You know.
I see.
Yeah. So, but I guess, but in talking about the song, I mean, okay, Chris, I understand. I understand that, your disappointment that this was the one that I picked. Like, what is your personal opinion on the song?
Um, because I think in all this time, I think I'm most disappointed that my opinion didn't change, and like I just like it was like the flavor of the month for like hipster indie music at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like I think 2011, 2012, I'm at Purdue University. Instead of like studying and like going to class, I'm on Spotify every day playing Team Fortress 2, listening to albums. Like spending all my time reading Spin magazine, going on absolutepunk.net because I'm just like I have to take all this in. I can't miss anything. I have to like I want to know what's going on in the world. Like my first time seeing Coachella performances, like when CeeLo showed up super late and like closed his set with like "Don't Stop Believing." I'm like, I can't believe I get to see shit like
Wow.
this.
Wow.
Like there was it's so funny. Like you have like Gust of Wind on this list, and like when like Marilyn Monroe from that album Girl was on like my job's DVD screens. I'm like, I can't believe I'm seeing shit like this. Like I never thought like Pharrell would be just like, oh, like the guy from like the Minions movie for the rest of his career until like he made the beat for like Move That Dope and things of that nature. I'm just like, I have to like so whoever it is, whatever's happening, I need to hear it one time, and if I'm not like enraptured by it, I'm gonna just put it in my back pocket and just like if it pops up again and I can't ignore it, it's like wait a minute, I have a reference for this. I'll go through my bag, and then that'll be that. Because not to snitch on myself, that's my relationships to Ben's music. Because I'm pretty sure one of your songs from the first album was a song for free on iTunes, and I'm like, I'm grabbing this like without a shadow of a doubt, and that's just what it was. I think I recorded like not all of them, most of them. And then like meeting Aylor and us talking about records all the time, listening to records together. And I'm like, Benjamin Booker. Let me look him up. It's that album that I got for free that one time. I don't even know what song it was that was like the free single. But I'm just like, the name stuck in my craw. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, and because like when I see the album, I wasn't like the first album anyhow. I wasn't really paying attention to the album art. So I'm like, oh, cool. Just another artist like just keeping my little book of tricks. And I'm like, oh, he a brother? Say less. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Because it's such a rarity where it's just like, it's a brother and he playing guitar What do you got to say? I need to listen to this.
You guys don't even know. Like the amount of people, it's a very small out there. It's like you can name them, and it's like I know them. You know what I mean? It's like TV on the radio. I know them. You know what I mean? Like who else is out there?
Gary Cole Jr.
Yeah, I've met him. You know what I mean? Like there's very few people. We all know each other. It's not that.
You like let me tell you something. It was so crazy to me because like the Rock Nation brunch was recently, and I was tripping because one of my favorite metal bands, Spirit Box, was there, and I'm like, oh, they have representation through Live Nation, so that's why they got to attend. Super cool. Didn't expect it, but then I also saw Tyler the Creator in a picture with Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders, and I'm just like, I never could have fathomed that they would meet and like shake hands and take a picture together, because I'm sure they had a lot to talk about in regards to fashion, in regards to like making music. I wouldn't be surprised if like he's like, oh, like can I get a sample for the next album or whatever the hell, whatever like Tyler does next. Like I'm secretly hoping that like Tyler make like host a mixtape for Wayne, because like just every time the two of them get together on a beat, is just like, man, like he's such a huge fan. He knows what Wayne sounds good on and things of that nature. It's just like,
I want to hear like, Wayne and Alchemist. That's what I want to hear.
Yo, please.
Don't
Wayne,
put hope in my head.
Yeah.
But the guitar thing is crazy. There was a weird thing when I was younger about like people would literally just like see me playing guitar in high school and be like, "What are you doing? Black people don't play guitar." And I'd be like, "Look."
But they do.
I was like, this is from us. I was like, look who came up with all of these guitar things. That's what's so frustrating to me about just it's indicative of everything that's happening now with just people just not knowing where things come from. It's like things come from places, and a lot of times it's from Black places. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. What can you do? Sorry, well, let's get back to the things.
Dress well.
Yeah, I guess all I can really say about the How to Dress Well song is that, you know, I always thought how he utilized the guitars and, you know, the percussion was really well done. And I love how the vocals are sequenced within the hook. I mean, the whole thing with the song is like really kind of like how like with relationships, you don't intend to come off like you don't intend to come off like needy or manipulative, but when you are craving for this feeling again, it kind of drives you into becoming at times a lesser version of yourself. And even when, you know, the song ends, you know, with even broken my heart will go on, that's not an optimistic thing. That's not a, oh hey, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. That's very much I think even he explained in an interview, that's him basically saying, you know, as humans, we are so hardwired to seek pleasure and try to cultivate that pleasure however we can. You know, we're going to keep on doing that. And that was, I don't know, that really kind of took me for a surprise when I heard that explanation back then. I mean, you know, How to Dress Well would still keep on doing some stuff, but you know, much like everyone who was kind of in that whole, you know, that alternative on
ND&B.
Yeah, he PBR and B.
You know, did you get that message from listening to the song, or you had to listen to him talk about it to really get the?
You know, it's one part. I'll admit there is one part of it is kind of like how I'm interpreting it, but I do know that I did look at an interview or where he said where he specifically talked about that line, "The book in my heart will go on" line about, and how
I was just wondering. Part of, I guess, being making music or being any kind of artist, how much, like how clear you want your work to be, the message that you want to get to people. Him putting a message of that you were talking about. What was it? Sorry, you're talking about the message of the song.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Um, you mean the broken my heart will go online, or just the
uh,
general?
just the general message of the song, but it seemed like it was kind of like a pretty kind of like meaningful thing to him that he was trying to put into the song, like a complex kind of
Hmm.
thing that he was doing. But it's just like I didn't know if you were getting that from the work itself. That because that would be impressive to me if he's able to give you that from the song. But if you're getting it from
Yeah.
the interview, that cheapens the song. It means that he didn't actually have that
Well,
much impact from the song. It's a combination of the
well,
two.
it's yeah. Okay. I think like I will admit, like, growing older and having certain life experiences, that meaning kind of just becomes more clearer to me, because I think, like, the person I was when I first heard that, like, I could definitely understand to being heartbroken and stuff like that. And so that was probably how I was just kind of seeing it, just kind of like, oh, general breakup stuff. But I think, the person I am now, who's had more life experiences and has had even more heartbreaks, but has also kind of like learned to understand the effect it has on me, and like what it kind of you know this dumb stuff you can say and do after that. It's like, oh, and it becomes clear when in lines like, in innocence I never wanted this to subside. I only wanted you by my side, and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, I get that now more, because I've had more experiences
Mm.
now where even if I don't want to, even if I'm not trying to come off like some selfish jerk, I might say or do something where I come off like a selfish jerk, and
Sounds like this
you
is a
know,
good
s-
you're growing with it. It's speaking
mhm.
to you at different points of your life. Like, all right, how to dress well. Maybe he's not with us now, but shout out to how to dress well.
Much art,
According to my
much art.
research, the last time we heard from How to Dress Well was in 2019.
That's not
Yes,
that long.
2019. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
not
in 2018, dropped an album, and then like some Lucy's. No, it was an album. Never mind. One Train hides another in 2019. And we haven't heard from Homeboy since. Dropped on Domino. Like kudos.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking for some amazing like white boy electronic kind of stuff like that, there's a group, I think it's Blue Nile, is this group from
Oh yeah,
Vietnam.
yeah. I, I, I literally own one of their records. Like, I
Hats.
could,
Why am I not surprised? That's
I
crazy.
could. One moment, one moment.
I
Let
know
me
he's gonna
go
dig it
go
up.
to my room right now.
Oh,
I
okay. I've
believe,
seen that. I've definitely seen that before.
It's
yeah.
incredible.
Really?
I mean, it's honestly, it's mind blowing. There's a song called like "Downtown Lights" that just is so moving.
Downtown Lights,
It's really
1989. Okay.
overlooked, overlooked stuff.
My man is gonna dig this joint out. I know that
Yeah.
he's got it. At least once during a stream. There it is.
Yo,
Yes. Okay. And all right. It's okay.
I
This is
love
their
this
debut
man.
album. Downtown Lights was on their sophomore
Okay.
album, I believe.
yeah,
Hats, which
yeah.
Yes.
yes,
He
it
didn't
is
even look at the
truly
screen and he
one of the
knew
most
because
magical songs ever made. In fact, I kind of do this thing where I treat like one song like it's a prequel or a sequel to another, kind of like what I just did when I was talking about
right with Albarn. Yeah.
Damon Albarn and Blur. And I think Downtown Lights always kind of felt like the I would call it like the male equivalent to Fleetwood Mac's Everywhere, in terms of both
Wow.
kind of having this wistfully synthy sound. And if I don't know, it's you know if Fleetwood Mac's Everywhere was kind of like about this kind of fantasy of like wanting someone and desiring someone, I always thought that Downtown Lights was also about wanting that fantasy, but also about the desperation that kind of comes from wanting that fantasy. Because, like, the way, like, Paul is on the vocals, like, the neon lights and everything, and he's talking about, like, hey, I am so tired of crying on the stairs. It's like, he is like really, really begging.
I mean,
Yeah, like, he is
you can
absolutely.
never say that. People can't say that white people don't have soul. I mean, that song is fucking soulful, bro. Like, Jesus. You can't do more than that. You can't do more than that.
Yeah.
To me,
and he
it's
did
more
this song years, like,
okay.
yeah. Oh, no. Go on. No, please, go on.
To me, he kind of reminds me of like Bruce Springsteen, in that it's this kind of extreme American romantic writing and sentiment in the songs. But he's kind of, whereas Bruce Springsteen is kind of like the popular version of that, he's more of the kind of loser version of that. You know what I mean? Like the
everyday kind of John.
Kind of just like, well, Bruce Springsteen is kind of like a giant kind of dude. This is the guy who's like, maybe like smokes weed and it's just like in the alley. You know what I mean? Just like, fuck, bro.
Right.
Like, I mean, so I like, I like him more, but yeah.
Where I'll be cheating. I'll be in study hall with him.
Paul Westerberg, I would like to think, is also kind of an example of that. Yeah, and and I think I've told Chris about my admiration for the Replacements multiple times.
Oh yeah,
I know. Paul actually, back in 2012, he would actually do a pretty neat solo song called Mid-Air, which I only know because it was in a Richard Curtis rom-com that I like, called About Time. And it's really, it's really amazing how, like, decades later, that same very wistful, very, very wistful, at times desperate view of love never really left Paul. But yet he still finds a way to make it come out so endearingly. And it's he does it magically on Downtown Lights. The Blue Nile. Blue Nile has.
Can I tell you guys something?
Please
feel free.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I've been talking to people recently. Like, I had this friend who wanted to take pictures. I gotta really get into this. All right, so I had this friend who wanted to take pictures of me, and I was like, okay, let's do pictures with something more interesting, like I'll be crying or something like that, and I can cry on command if I'm listening to certain music, right?
Okay.
So there's an Aretha Franklin song called on her live album. That's a medley of Precious Lord, blah blah blah. But he was like, man, this is a powerful song, and I was trying to explain it to him because he's Australian. He's not an American.
Okay.
And so you got to break it down. And I was like, he was like, why does this mean so much to you? And I was like, there's this thing about all Black music where there's a darkness and a heaviness to life and hope mixed into it. And that combination is Black art. You know what I mean? There's always the darkness and hope mixed together. And like you see that throughout. That's the through line. And so I was like, this is why it's so powerful to me, because it's like that is our lives. We're people who go through so much, but we have so much hope and we just keep going. You know what I mean? We can't be stopped. So I was telling him about all this kind of stuff. But my point is that listening to those kinds of people, that the Blue Nile guy and Paul Westerberg, you hear that same kind of thing in their music, this kind of like heaviness of life, but this kind of like reaching for the light, you know what I mean? And I think that maybe that is the kind of soulfulness that resonates with Black people. And that's what I was trying to say.
We're like that meeting of the minds.
couldn't have said better about myself. But hey, okay, so and we got through the how to dress well song, how
On to the Roots.
I guess yes, next Never from the Roots, from as of right now what is still their last album that they've released, and then you shoot your cousin. And my
Critically
relationship with
panned.
it's I mean, okay, I mean, with the Roots, I would argue they have a kind of like a 4 point of classic album, 4 point of classic albums that, because of these classic albums, I will admit they kind of get a lifetime of goodwill from me. They did. It was the Illadelph Half-Life, Things Fall Apart, Game Theory, especially Game Theory. I love that album so much. And Undone. They did those 4 albums, all 4 albums, which I consider masterpieces in some way. So like, even when they kind of drop, like, and I'm not gonna act as if I've loved every single album they've done, but it's like, but my relationship is like, you know what, it's cool. I might not be rocking with it, but you know what? It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Like, you don't you don't everyone doesn't score 10 out of 10. Sometimes you don't even score 6 out of 10. It's cool. But I did but never was a particularly good a song I consider pretty good. I mean, and this album kind of came out in a pretty interesting time. I mean, this was the first year that they would. This was their first year as the house band for the Tonight Show, even though for years they had been the house band for Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, back when his show was called Late Night. And something that I'd always kind of respected about the Roots was, even though they got a whole bunch of new mainstream attention from, being with Jimmy Fallon and stuff like that, they rarely, if ever, tried to they rarely, if ever, tried to play up on that on their albums. Like, they never tried to go for like, oh, hey, you guys see us on Jimmy Fallon all the time. Like, here's a really cool like pop single and stuff like that. Not that it'll be like, like not trying to down talk pop music, but but just the
They're not
stuff
combat team.
yeah, but just the stuff that the Roots have always excelled with. And even when they don't succeed with it, they still are trying to excel at it. And granted, is still pretty much their last album as of now, but they were doing so much, releasing so much stuff, like, even like in a 4 year time span. They did the How I Got Over album. Okay, they did the How I Got Over album that came out in June of 2010. They did the Wake Up collab album with John Legend, which
Great album.
got them a great, really was. The Wake Up album with John Legend. They did the Betty Wright. They did the sound. I think the soundtrack for a collaboration with Betty Wright for her movie Betty Wright the Movie. Then they did Undone. Then they did a collaboration album with Elvis Costello, and then you shoot your cousin. So these guys, and they were doing this while also doing the stuff on Jimmy Fallon. So, but I guess just to kind of talk about the song themselves. I mean, I've always admired, even though I'll admit, I don't listen to his podcast as much as I should, but something that Questlove does talk about, does always make clear
Supremo.
on his podcast. Yeah, the Questlove Supreme. Shout out to that reference. Shout out to that reference. He's always made it clear how he's a student of music theory. and kind of like how that's really impacted the way that he not just he plays the drums, but also the
He makes the albums.
relationship that really,
He specifically
exactly
honestly, I find it very bizarre the way that he approaches music. The end result ends up being good, but it's weird to think about making music
He gets
specifically.
there. Oh,
It's like that's
Mhm.
why I think that I don't know the Roots to me. I've never gotten deep into the Roots, although I have lots of respect for them. But yeah, Questlove, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really say anything more about it, I guess.
I definitely went through a period
uh,
where I listened to like Questlove Supreme a lot,
The
and
podcast to me is incredible. There's nothing else for Black people to get those kinds of interviews. He's doing interviews with people who are media heads of companies, just like people who've worked in different levels of the industry, just giving advice to people who need it. You know what I mean? Like Questlove
mhm.
for the people.
period.
Absolutely, and and also like and like in okay, and so if with Questlove kind of basically being like the main go-to musical guy of the Roots, you have Black Dot, who is always delivering on the lyrics, and
I'm
you
25, dead
know
or alive.
yeah, and Black Dot, man, the thing about Black Dot that like, and I think I kind of mentioned this with Chris when because when I was showing him some stuff, some Jay Dilla stuff from
Right.
like back in the early 2000s, and maybe this kind of applies to Black Dot, but I think like now people kind of get it. It's like I think because we think of Black Dot, we think of the Roots, and they're kind of the whole the Soulquarians thing, and as well as them being with Jimmy Fallon. Sometimes we forget like Black Dot, he can get pretty gritty and dark when it comes to the lyrics. Like, man, like, and while I could argue you could argue perhaps he's done it better on better songs. It's so clear on this song where he's very much reflecting on his dark childhood, growing up in Philly, losing family members, just kind of being brought up in an atmosphere where it is so easy to become the worst version of yourself, which makes it all the more surprising that not only did he not, he's been able to excel as much as he has, you know and yeah, truly, and I'm glad, and I'm glad that Black Dot has been able to like do more solo stuff outside of the Roots. I mean, he like last year he did the collaboration album with Danger Mouse, and I think that's probably one
Great
of the
release.
best. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the best things Danger Mouse has done in his role, and that's saying a lot because I'm this literally the man who did the Gray album, the Gray the Gray album, which is still probably one of the great like probably one of the great comments on the
Ask
dexterity
Paul
of hip
McCartney.
hop.
The lawyers couldn't stop me.
Wait,
Exactly,
you're talking about the Danger Mouse album, the Gray album? Is that what you said?
The one with like the hoes and
yeah,
the
the
Beatles
Gray album.
samples.
Oh yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Bro,
Yeah,
Danger Mouse.
you
Shout out to
know,
Danger. Brian.
yeah,
You met him too.
I worked with him on a song, and I met him in Austin one time. I met him in LA.
Ooh-wee.
He's a very cool producer. I like what he does, man. I think that he's clearly got it. That song "Crazy" is a classic song, bro.
They play it on my job every day to this day.
It'll be
Oh,
around
yeah,
for hundreds of years. That song
They're
will be
gonna
around.
outlive us for sure.
oh yeah.
Like, come on.
The same.
He could have only done that, and it's like, come on. That's all he had to do. But the
Not mention
Gray
like the
album,
Broken Bell shit. Yeah.
but also the Gray album. Come on.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, and
He's a sweet guy. I like him.
Wonderful. Love that.
Oh yeah, truly, and I am all the more all the more thankful for. I hope him and Black Dots continue to do more stuff
Guarantee there's something in
together
like the
and
tank they
more
can give
stuff
us for
together.
sure.
And also I think it's also, and this is just like purely on a personal day, because I've noticed it for years, but I love how much Questlove always rides for Black Dots. He always makes it
Yes.
he always makes it clear that if you are talking about great MCs and you do not put respect on Black Dot's name, then he
Give me that
doesn't
drumstick
he
to the
has
head.
no yeah, he has no respect for your opinion if you put no respect on Black Dot's name. And I think that is just a very very, very beautiful relationship. I mean, I would say, like, in terms of like hip hop, like a hip hop band, they're probably the closest we have to, like, kind of like, because they're bands where it's like a de facto vocalist and a de facto instrumentalist. When we think of like a quote unquote face of a band, like take the Rolling Stones, for example. Like, when people think of that, they think of Mick Jagger and they think of Keith Richard, or U2, they think of Bono and The Edge. Where you respect the other people, you respect the other guys, but you definitely put a lot of your attention on two specific guys. And I would say the Roots were kind of like the closest you kind of have to a hip hop equivalent to that.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Mhm.
you know,
They're very. I
and
think they're good for. One thing that I always thought, it's rare that I think for to see Black artists who have like a careers where you can just, like, you know what I mean, like there's a million white artists who have careers of dozens of albums that you can go to and listen to and kind of get into their whole life and all that kind of stuff. There's very rarely any Black people like that, you know what I mean, like
Mm.
it's just like not a thing because you get cut off. You know what I mean? The opportunities are not there. But just the way that they're heading, it's like they could be the Mick Jagger kind of thing where it's like they'll be the hip hop Rolling Stones where it's like they could still be playing shows when they're 60s. You know what I mean? Like
There's
because
longevity to them. I get that.
because
Yeah.
they have the consistency and they're doing it. You know what I mean? It's there. It's the substance is there.
I'm thankful they
absolutely
have.
agree.
I'm thankful they have job security because, like,
Yeah.
Aylor has often like sung the praises of Aylor, who's the man that does Cult of Personality.
Living Color.
Yeah, like you're maybe like the only person I know who like waves like the banner for that band, because I unfortunately was one of those people who's like, oh, like they had the one big record and like they didn't get the support that they deserved, despite like having like joints for days, or like saying when our
It's
last
very
stream
common. It's very
Mm.
common. The same thing.
Mm.
If you look at Black film, Julie, like there's a bunch of Black filmmakers who they have their big Black film, and then they disappear and they never make another film again. It's just like to keep working.
Unfortunate.
It's so difficult because they'll give you one chance. You might get lucky, and somebody will give you a chance. But to keep getting chances, it's like they don't give you. They don't throw out chances like they throw out for different other people. You know what I mean? So it's different.
Yeah.
If I can drop my 2 cents in on Never, it's I feel as though like all like the praise that you're heaping on Black Thought is kind of like almost just like steamrolled by like this like all the time that like Patty Crash has in this record, and I don't know who that is, and so thankfully Genius like kept track,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, like so featuring on rap records is what she does, so like, and kudos to that. But like there are maybe like four songs that you can find with her on it, and like I was definitely one of those people who saw the reviews for And Then You Shoot Your Cousin, and like people didn't like it, and I'm like, do I want to get into this? Do I want to give it a shot? Because How I Got Over and Undone were the only two albums that I heard. I spent time listening to.
Mm-hmm.
My old man, God rest him, he had Wake Up, but I think it's because John Legend was on it. And like my sister was like very into I Can't Write Left-Handed, and anyone who knows me knows I love prog, I love metal, and like a 10-minute song, I can get into the weeds with that. And like I appreciate just like how they just take their time with that song. And I'm just like, it's not often where you can like get somebody to sit down for a song like that. And I love like the that they filmed themselves playing that record so people can see just like the the blood they're squeezing out of that song on that particular album. And like if I will what I want to say most of all is that like if I'm trying to convince people who are fence sitters for this album, I would not play them this joint. Like, cause and I know you, Lord, like you're seeing like the poetic side, like just like the real raw
Yes.
of this song. And I find myself like falling into like the position of like the opposition. It's like I'm always thinking of like, oh, I may not be able to play this particular song for most of my friends because they're all gonna make the same complaints. And sometimes that complaint will just like be that devil on my shoulder and I cannot ignore.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm grown. So I'm like, man, like if it's good, it's good. And like since I respect the Roots, since I want to like come to bat for them, I should still want to like hear everything and say, oh, like, because I know y'all are lazy, here are like the ones that you have to hear before you die. And if you really want to like hear everything, you'll come along for this one too. If that makes any sense.
Do you think? Where do you think that that their biggest song is obviously the Seed? You know,
you got me,
Cody Chestnut.
But how does that rank? How do you rank that in their songs as a fan of their music?
And like, had I not been friends with Aylor, I would have never heard the Seed. The only reason why I did was because I don't remember what channel it was when I was younger, but like for some reason we had this channel that played like obscure music videos, and the Seed was one of them. And I'm like, yo, it's so crazy to like hear like a straight just like rock record from the Roots, you know, like and not even on like no new metal bullshit. It's like straight just like bars and a rock hook.
What happened to Cody Chestnut, bro? Like what happened?
Okay. So like I think like after the success of the Seed, he kind of just went on the dog because he wanted to, because I think he had a kid and he kind of just wanted to focus on that. But he did officially like come back 2012 with I forget the name of the album, but it was a really cool like just straight up soul album.
Landing on 100.
Yes, and it had a lot of really cool songs. Till I Met D is a really good standout, and also I think I have been great was also a really lovely.
I've been life.
Really lovely one. I've been life.
When I was younger, I just wonder what happened to him because he had this song. The first time I ever heard him, he had this song that was like it was literally just like he was like, what? Ah, man, damn, what is that? It was like, white man, where would you be without my soul music?
Oh man.
White man, where would you be without my bleeding heart? Like, and I was like, damn, bro. Like, I remember hearing that when I was a kid on MySpace, and I don't think it's online. Like, it just doesn't exist.
Damn.
But I was like, Cody Chestnut was doing something. Like, he was doing something. And I want to hear it.
Okay, and this is something I need to make clear. I need to make like that man was getting cosigns from Tom York.
Damn.
From Tom York.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
The Headphone Masterpiece, like, yeah, Tom York gave that album like a stamp of approval, man. And
that's how hard it is, bro. That's how hard it is out there. You can have Tom York and fucking songs like that and still get shut down, bro.
2002.
Yeah, and
damn.
But you also can't say shit like
I've heard.
You
can't. You really can't. You can't be telling the truth out here. That's wild.
They'll shut you down. Dead President. They have their biggest song is "I'm down for running up on some crackers down in City Hall." You can't say that shit.
That shit is hard. That shit is hard. Wait, I have a bit. I have a bit about this. I have a bit about this because one of my favorite bands right now is Zulu. They're a black power violence band. Like, and by the way, their debut album, crazy, so good. And I was on TikTok scrolling, and one of like the white people I follow was like, "Hey, y'all talking crazy about Zulu because of their abolish white hardcore T-shirt? Calm the fuck down. Like, y'all ain't got no sense of humor." And it was a white brother, bald headed. It's like, bro, y'all need to chill, bro. It's clearly a joke, and like y'all getting mad. It's proving their point. And I'm like, hold up, they said abolish white hardcore. Who the heck said this? And like I heard Our Day Will Come, and I'm just like, it was on My People Hold On, and just like the imagery of like guys with fronts, drinking 40s, sitting on the car, like beating up folks in like Ku Klux Klan costumes. Like, oh, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. And like the songs are 2 minutes long. Let's get it.
Yeah. I think that you're gonna see a lot of different stuff now because what people don't understand on a broader picture of just like America and black-white relations is there was a time when we were all about being nice, peace, like all that kind of stuff. But it's like then they killed all of those people. So it's like whatever comes next, it's not gonna be that.
Oh no. Oh, no. We on your ass.
Okay, let's continue. Let's not get into trouble here. All right.
Respectfully. For legal purposes, this conversation is parody.
Yes, very much parody. Okay, so I guess
3 more.
We go to Rick Ross. Yeah, Rick Ross.
Yes, let's do Richest Gangsta, which is a song I had not heard until like Ben made the request.
I just looked up a song because I didn't know this album well, but I'm a big fan of, I guess, Rick as a writer in general. There was a song called when I lived in New Orleans. I saw him one time shooting this video for the song "Hold Me Back."
Went crazy.
I was just thinking of that one.
Yeah, I used to walk by those projects on the way. I used to work at this Coca-Cola factory in New Orleans, and I walked back from there, and I just saw them shooting that video one day, and it was literally just like 100 just like intense dudes just huddled around each other, and I was just like like I was like I didn't know it was a music video, and I was like, let me get
right. Look at hyphy over there. Hold on.
Oh man, that was already like a stressful part of my walk, and I was like, nah, not today.
Gonna shuffle on by.
I mean,
but that song is incredible.
Oh yeah, I think the thing about Rick Ross that is constantly, probably one of the most complimented parts of Rick Ross is his talent for good beat selection and really just being able to like glide lyrically within it to the point where he's on many features he's considered a standout, like devil in a
I knew you were gonna freaking say it. I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, that's considered one of his greatest.
The opening couplet is
yeah, to the point that even though Kanye did not want to make a music video for it, like Rick Ross was able to just make a music video of it, just his verse alone. That was just him sitting. That was just him. Like I think he was in the back of a Maybach, and he's just smoking a cigar, and just rapping his verse. And I'm watching this. Just like this works. This is
looking at my chicks to give your ass a bone. Looking at my wrist, turn your ass to stone.
Yeah, and
crazy.
I mean,
he's a good rap. He's just he gets I think music more than a lot of rappers do, and like he's not going to be bad. You know what I mean? Like even if he's not lyrically delivering, but he's not gonna sound. He doesn't sound bad ever. You know what I mean? He doesn't sound bad.
No, I'm not gonna lie. He falls into the one flow camp, but
He does.
I don't have a problem with that. I act like because like
Like
I'll
the
like
Ramones, it's like give it to me every time, over and over. I don't care.
I'll say this because like the two people who I always pick on being in the one flow camp are two people: 21 Savage and Lil Baby. Now here's the thing about 21 Savage: he's hilarious, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that he has one flow. Because I
Yeah.
listen to No Heart and I fall out of my chair because I'm like, there's no way a song like this should be funny to me, but like
Yeah.
he delivers. Now, Lil
Yeah.
Baby, I have a little more. I have not an issue, but like say like on the Grammys this year, he's featured in like the hip hop like just like salutes, and my his selection for a song brought the energy down, and it was a record that I knew, and I'm like, son, like y'all, if you're here and gonna consistently be here, these records have to be undeniable. Because aside like his song that came out during like the George Floyd protests, and
Bigger
like
picture.
yes
Yeah.
indeed, or like say even maybe like Drip Too Hard, I can't think of a joint where it's just like, oh, like you can't deny like the prowess of a Lil Baby. He did have that one verse on a Drake song, but I don't remember the name of the song. And like I think there was like a skit made about how good that verse was, but I can't really like I think from like what's his like coast to coast nationally syndicated like undeniable joint because he has one flow. And he's gonna rap his ass off, but I'm like, I need something here. Like if
Do you think that this is a side note? Do you think that 21 Savage knows how funny he is? Like Young Thug, like is clearly just like fucks with people. You know what I mean? Like he's just
all
like
those voices and shit.
he's a funny. You can tell he must be a funny person. But yeah, but the what's funny to me about 21 Savage, and I think he's incredible. His first that big album that he had come out, like the
Yes,
Cardi
sir.
B, like the Cardi B album, her first one, I was like, man, these are incredible albums. Like I feel like I know these people from this album. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I see them now. But 21 Savage to me also like maybe it's because of his look and his vibe that it makes what he's saying even funnier to me. Like what he's saying, because it's like I can't tell if he's serious or not. I don't know what is. I don't know. I don't know.
Like his
I mean,
his whole year
would
saying
say-
like the 12 car like 12 like the 6 cars in the 12 car garage meme. It's like it went crazier than it deserved to go for as long as it did. Multiple songs,
Okay.
multiple features.
And I think the thing about 21, and I'm so glad that he's kind of like embraced this, is that he's very reminiscent of 80s like 80s like 80s hardcore 80s hardcore gangster rappers, like, you know, like a Schoolie D and
Sure.
an Ice-T. People who had they had a simple delivery. Yeah, or Too Short. People who had a simple delivery but knew how to like make that delivery work.
Right.
And
he's like a punchline guy, like kind of like a comedian, kind of like he does
100%.
he does kind of have this powerful kind of like thing. It's kind of like Kurt Cobain. Like when you look at his kind of writing, it's very he was kind of like a cutthroat writer, and like it's kind of like rap where it's like it doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's like each line is kind of just like an emotional kind of like lyrical punch. Like you feel something from just the string of words, and that's as a writer something that's very difficult to do. But 21 Savage can do that, where it's like the car garage thing, like it's like that's just like it's like this is stupid, but it's just like you remember it and it sticks with you, and it's like it's something that you can hold on to, I guess. I don't know.
I also just want to like before I get off this train, I just want to like I always want to like shout out him and Metro Boomin for like securing the Morgan Freeman feature, because I don't know anyone else in the culture that could have pulled that off.
Morgan, you know, I went to school with Morgan Freeman's granddaughter in college.
Shut up.
And I was like, Morgan Freeman read you bedtime stories.
Oh.
Oh yeah, like
wow.
back at, you know, one of my old classes in my old college, like one of my classmates, classmates, and I remember she prefaced this by like, "Hey, don't make a big deal out of it, but like Aretha Franklin's my great aunt," and I
Wow.
remember just wanted to give her this look like, how can I? How am I supposed to look at
Miss Ma'am?
like so yeah, it's I mean, hey, hey, I guess it's going to be like if I ever talk when I talk to people about you being on the show, like, hey, don't make a big deal out of it, but like I was somehow able to get Benjamin Booker to come on our show. Don't make a big deal out
That's
of
a lie. That
You
whole,
can
like,
get him because he wasn't doing anything.
it.
on the other side of the universe right now.
Yeah, I live a very relaxed life. I'm
And
right
we love
now.
that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, all good.
finished working on music and and putting things together. But I'm taking care of a kid, working, just living. You know what I mean?
It'll drop when it drops.
Yeah.
People should see Black people relaxing, taking their time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go back to the Tyler quote. I go back to like the Tyler quote from album 3 where he's on Big Boy's Neighborhood and like, damn, cuz you rich. He's like, no, I'm financially stable. And I'm like, ooh, come on, financially stable?
Yeah. But yeah. Okay. And Chris, okay. I know you. I just okay. I know. And before we end up, and I know, yes, we're definitely saving deeper for last. And after did, and and with us being done with Richest Gangster, we did. I know the very temptation to talk about a song from the man himself, but. And we will get to those two songs, but since we got three brothers here, do you think perhaps we squeeze in talking about Pharrell Williams, Gust of Wind?
Gust of Wind. Okay, we can talk about Gust of Wind.
Yes.
All right.
I don't know this. I don't know this song.
Okay, so for context, the last time we streamed, we were talking about 2013, and like we each picked like 6 records, and we got like Aylor's little bro to pick like the last song, the 13th record, and he's like, "Oh, y'all gotta talk about Get Lucky," and we shit on it for the whole stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I'm like, and we're like, we're basically of the mind that like, oh, they shouldn't have picked Pharrell to like sing on this song. They could have got somebody else. However, they also worked on a song for his solo album, Gust of Wind. And I was just like, bro, if they had just switched the songs, like the last Daft Punk album.
Pharrell was Pharrell sang on Get Lucky as a demo, like for somebody else to sing, and he didn't know that they were going to use it. And then he was like, "Oh shit!" Like he didn't know that.
See, then like the robots, dog. Like I gotta hold y'all accountable, cuz like.
I just heard that. I
because at one point. Yeah, and one point we kept on making was the fact that like because it's not the only Pharrell Niles Rodgers collaboration on the album. Lose Yourself to Dance.
Oh yeah, Lose Yourself to Dance
was another song, and it was also released as a single. They had a really cool music video, and I remember seeing that video and being like, "Ah, man, yo, yeah, hey, this is gonna blow up and Get Lucky," and it didn't. It didn't.
Oh hell no!
It got some spins.
So like the dance heads for sure were definitely getting the roll bounce onto that joint, but like you can't ask like the American, like you can't ask like your day-to-day folk to throw like a 7-minute dance record and just be like, yeah, you're gonna vibe with this, ain't y'all? Like nah, that's for like the true believers.
Yeah.
Get Lucky is
yeah.
It was a better decision, but like I just think like there could have been somebody they could have called if they Rolodex, but like, hey, cuz can we get that dude from Discovery real quick doing this, John?
Oh, you're talking about you guys just don't like Pharrell as a singer. You're not into singing.
But I do, which is why I'm like, and that's why I picked Gust of Wind.
I do.
He's doing his thing on Gust of Wind, and I'm like, oh, like he's really like going for the. It's really like there's some hooks where it's like, oh, they had to have Pharrell in this joint, like the joint he does with Wale, that really works. The joint that he did for Jay-Z on Blueprint 3, that really works for me. And like,
Okay.
even
And
just like the
I
Snoop
will
Dogg
have to,
collaboration.
yeah, and I will have to walk out of this room for a bit to show you how much I truly love Pharrell as
Oh
as an
God,
artist.
he's got a whole nother
But
gem out of the goddamn closet.
but I gotta, but I gotta, just to let you know that I really do respect the man. But I'm gonna have to exit this room for a bit. I'll be like right back in like
Okay.
in like 7 seconds. I'll count right now.
This man said 7 seconds.
Remember when I said I was born in Virginia
Yes.
Beach? That the high school that I
Oh.
would have gone to if I stayed there would have been Pharrell's high school. That I lived in the same kind of.
Oh, that's right. That's
So
right.
I've always bonded people. There's something to people from that area. Like I always
100%.
recognize Black people from that. When you see like, think about like Missy Elliott, Pharrell, Timbaland, like they're just kind of like weirdo. I think it's because it's a mixture. You're in between the North and the
100%.
South.
Yes.
Okay.
My
Okay. It
mother's
wasn't
from
7
Norfolk, so I understand
seconds,
what you mean.
but yes, this
Ladies
is
and gentlemen,
another prize possession. The In My Mind album, which granted Pharrell himself does not have the most positive opinion on this album, but and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think at the time it didn't like it neither critically or commercially did
folks
like the
don't
business.
know it's bonkers.
Yeah,
Pharrell from VA, yeah.
It didn't do. Yeah, it didn't do the business that the record label was expecting it to, but they still kept him on to do another NERD. Yeah. Can I have it like that with Gwen Stefani? And I do remain a really huge fan of That Girl with Snoop Dogg. I don't know if anyone can see it.
That Girl. I don't.
Yeah, this.
Can we get a couple? Can we get a couple?
I'm about to say.
Yes.
I don't even remember that song. I'm not even gonna lie to you there, but if it had that 4 count, it was nasty.
No. I think it doesn't start with the 4 count. It starts with him just saying we do this in our sleep. Geez. And I'll always remember Snoop Dogg's, and also shout out to the music video which had Lauren London on it. Much love to her and everything. But yeah, I know Snoop Dogg's verse had because he was talking about how he was the forbidden romance of being a Crip who fell in love with a woman who was a Blood, and just
that's a great idea.
In that
I watched that.
In that typical Snoop Dogg delivery and everything, and it's I mean, I guess I can kind of understand why Pharrell is maybe not the biggest fan of it, because I guess he feels he's matured now as a singer, songwriter, producer. Yes, exactly, V. I agree. And but there really were some standout tracks. I mean, just there's something about this girl from around my way. Every time I try to hold back your feelings, but it just wouldn't say. But when I finally found the words to say, I want to run away, simply run away. I mean, if they had, look, if they had played this at my 8th grade formal instead of some of the stuff they actually played, maybe I actually would have got some game to ask.
My Lord,
to dance with me, it's like I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go, but it's like
this has come up before,
like.
And I'm not gonna let you forget that.
Like K through 12 party DJs, please. I mean, I get it. Y'all want to play the top 40 stuff, but sometimes y'all gotta y'all gotta
dig through the crates,
better,
of course.
Like please. But yeah. yeah, this didn't really do that well, and it's and but Interscope was still cool enough to keep him on, so because NERD would end up doing the Sea and Sounds album
That album changed
2 years
everything for
later.
me.
Yeah, which yeah, which funny enough also has a song called Happy. So so keep that in mind. Pharrell was trying to make that happy stuff have work before Despicable Me too.
It's
But
interesting like that. You were talking about Bad Day. Like Bad Day to me is such a bad song, but for some reason Happy doesn't feel bad to me. I don't, but it's the same
I know. I
Oh
know.
no.
Okay, I've always said this is that Happy was one of those songs where even when I could tell it was getting a bit over, I never
It was
got
definitely
tired of hearing
over
it.
for sure.
I love the fact that everybody was making their own YouTube videos, walk into the song and everything. I thought it was amazing. I thought I guess because at the time I thought that I genuinely had a fear that people were gonna forget about Pharrell and that he was kind of gonna be just relegated to 2000s nostalgia, and that was a kind of a small fear I had. And then with the fact that the song exploded, it was like, oh wow, like people are always going to remember Pharrell now. It's just going to be annoying because I'm going to look through YouTube videos and like no joke. The Neptunes did a remix to the Rolling Stones Sympathy for the Devil back in 2002, and I'm looking through the lyrics because they made a music video for it, and I remember seeing one of the comments being like, "Hey, why is the happy guy in the music video?" And it's like it's the gift and a curse, because I love the fact that there's a new audience who probably never cared about any of the hip hop, R&B, or pop stuff that Pharrell did back in the 2000s, that now have a reason to pay attention and acknowledge him and stuff like that. But
it's
and
really brutal. It's really brutal out there in those kinds of terms. Artists have to really pay attention to those kinds of things, and what you learn is that those kinds of legacies are cultivated. You know what I mean? Like I was listening to a podcast about Keith Haring and the foundation that he has, and how I was kind of like upset that they were just like licensing all of his stuff out to H&M and all these companies, his visual art. And they were just like, listen, we have to do it. There's a whole generation of kids that don't know about this. They'll just forget about him. That's why they made the Elvis movie recently, because kids literally don't know who Elvis is. Like, you know what I mean? Bob Dylan has a center in that just opened up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Bob Dylan Center. But it's because if you don't cultivate your own legacy, people won't remember you. I think that people in your lifetime, you have it in your mind that it's like, these people are going to be around for forever, but it doesn't really work like that. Everything is forgotten very quickly. You know what I mean? The last thing I'll say, there's a good book on this written by a guy named Chuck Klosterman called "Thinking About the Present as If It Were the Past," and it gives you some views on this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that really puts a whole lot of things in context. And I think and the girl album, which I think I'll be honest, I don't know if if I put the girl album on the same level as In My Mind,
Really not.
but
Two different
I
Pharrells.
oh yeah, exactly. Two different eras, two different Pharrells and everything. And but I did just appreciate the fact that you could, there's this Pharrell who's very much in that classic Neptunes synthesized party funk mode, and
Mhm.
there's the Pharrell on the Girl album, and it shows on Gust of Wind, which even has a feature with Hans Zimmer. If you ever listen to the violin symphonies that opens up that, and Marilyn Monroe, that's Hans Zimmer doing that. It's just like there is this sense, if not in lyrics, musically, there's a sense of maturity. There's a sense of like really broadening his horizons. That would keep continuing, because like I think like in 2016, 2017, he would do the soundtrack for the Hidden Figures movie, and everything. And it's stuff that sounded,
Didn't care for it.
I never saw it. I never saw it.
If you guys listen, there's a really great podcast that you guys should listen to called Black Men Can't Jump in Hollywood.
I love that podcast.
Yeah. But they talk about it too. I mean, a lot of that movie, they make up a white guy in that movie who like takes down the like colored on his side.
Yeah.
That's not a real guy.
I heard about that shit. I did hear about that.
Don't stop letting white people tell Black history. It's just like they're making it up. They're just making this shit up. It's not what happened.
Yeah.
It was worse. It was way worse.
Yeah, I've still never gotten around to seeing the movie. I mean, all I remember is like I remember, and this is not any shade on this person, but I just remembered my an ex of mine who I'm on good terms with was really, really, really excited to see it, and I was just way too busy with other stuff, and we had like long since broken up by that point. But I was just way too busy with other stuff, and I kind of kept ducking it here and there. But what could it have been, I guess. But I guess
imagine if Barry Jenkins or somebody like that made that movie. Can you imagine?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It's just we don't need Hidden Figures. We don't need it. We don't need Green Book. We don't need this shit. You know what I'm saying? We don't need it.
Definitely avoided that like the plague for sure.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm not even touching on the Green Book. I mean, but okay, Chris. I mean, I know we spoke of. Okay, I know because we spoke about the whole
Green Book.
Green Book.
No.
Yeah. This is. Yeah, I mean, like the Green Book slander will always remain. I mean, but I do love Mahat. But to Mr. Ali, I
Blade's gonna go bonkers.
I can.
Is he doing Blade?
Yes, he.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh wow! I thought they would have gotten like Idris or somebody. He's too old.
I think he's he may be a little bit too haggard for that role. I only know because I went out of my way to go see Eternals, and like the snippet at the end, you see Kit Harington about to pull out the ebony sword, and Blade's like, "Don't do that shit," and I'm like, "Oh shit!"
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. But I know with Chris, with Gust of Wind,
I'm sorry, brother.
What you use, I'm like, outside of just seeing it as the Daft Punk collaboration that should have gotten to Get Lucky.
That should have been,
and I agree. Like, what else do you love about it?
That's about it, to be honest with you. Like, I like, it was just like, again, that era, had to see Marilyn Monroe on like the store TV every afternoon. So I'm like, I'm gonna listen to the whole record, and there's a lot of fun stuff on there. But I'm like, oh, like, it's just, I was one of those kids who like heard One More Time on the radio, bought like Discovery with my own money, and like that was the album that kind of like soundtracked my first like high school romance. And like, I just got into anime, saw like the movie for Discovery, and I'm just like, I'm like, oh, there's never been a better piece of media than this, and from my limited perspective. And so it was like rare for me to see like that part of like my high school identity, like interact with such like a force that was Pharrell, who's wearing like the weird hat at the time, and like everyone wanted a beat from him, and I'm like, oh, like it only makes sense that they make such a fun song, and like it's odd that like just like that girl record didn't receive like the pomp and circumstance that everything else that he had done like did. Like he had a fairly decent collab with Justin on that record. Miley was on it and like did her thing, and like which is rare these days, even with like her sudden resurgence again. Just a lot of just things where I'm like, oh, like I guess like oh like had the stage to himself instead of like just like in the foreground of like 13 different people that he makes beats for and things like that. Yeah, I felt the same way about like when he and Missy got back together for where they from.
Yeah, where they're from.
And I'm like, damn, like I wish, because like it's like you like you show like you put them on like the big screen, but like did it get the replay? You know what I mean? And just like I felt as if like this was just like it had like the video treatment. You had like those stone Daft Punk heads floating through like this like
directed by
autumn
Edgar Wright, by the
foreground.
way.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, directed by Edgar. Yeah, the Gust of Wind video was directed by Edgar Wright. Yeah,
I hear doing weird stuff like that. I'm into it.
Yeah, and
you guys were talking about Pharrell's hat. I mean, people want to complain about appropriation. I always thought Pharrell stole his hat thing from Linda Perry of Four Non-Blondes.
Ah, man.
My God.
He's been doing it for a bit.
Just like took that and put like the Mountie indent into it. I see it.
Yeah.
Justice for Linda Perry, cause
justice.
they turned my girl to a meme, like a He-Man meme.
I keep saying Four Non-Blondes did better songs than What's Up, man. I mean, I got love for Miss Perry.
My God, we're in the weeds right now.
Yeah, but
we need to circle back.
But yeah.
Let's talk about Ben's song, dog. Let's get into Ben's record.
Yes. I guess. Wow. Okay. So I guess once again, I guess how I have to, and I guess it's now my time to be like really honest about how long my introduction to your music and just the interesting journey it's been going on through. But before I do that, since you mentioned Daft Punk and Discovery, another time I need to give a shout out to my because I every now and then I need to let people know that I am about the anime stuff. Like I am about the anime stuff. Like like I go back with this stuff, and rest in peace, Legend Matsumoto, man, who was part of that whole Daft Punk hit. But okay, but that out of the way, I guess to be honest, because I go back like with you, like I first heard. Okay, the very first song I heard from you, it was Violent Shiver, and back in like 2013, I'm on Tumblr like anyone in my age group, and I'm following a whole bunch of other people, and this was back when it was like way easier to post music on Tumblr, and this one dude who was probably one of the more very pro-black accounts I was following at the time. He had some song that I was very curious to hear, and it was your song, Violent Shiver. And as soon as I hear that opening guitar lick and just the very dumb in background and everything, I'm like completely hooked. I'm like, yo, who is it? Yo, who is this? Who is this guy? And not just knowing that this was a relatively new song, and B, hey, Ben, he's like this no shade, no shade on this man, and we're, it's kind of, I guess it's gonna kind of be hard to talk about, you putting out this album and not also mention this man, but this wasn't a Jack White this wasn't a Jack White situation, this was a brother, man, and all that. So I was like completely like, wow, completely very much enraptured. So I was like, hey, I gotta know what I gotta know what this guy's whole deal on. So I was following you on like the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and all that stuff. And when I finally had gotten wind of your album, thankfully around that same time, Have You Seen My Son was it was getting play on like the MTV college circuit, MTVU, they used to play the music video for Have You Seen My Son quite a few times. And and I just absolutely loved how completely just straight up like that same roughness that I loved about like 60s 70s garage bands just being on full display with that song. And you were absolutely working on it on the guitars and on the guitar and everything. And and I mean, and granted, there was how I was seeing it versus like, and I'm positive you will have a completely different point of view from what from since you actually experienced. But I was seeing you on like Late Night with Seth Meyers. I don't know if you got on this show for your self-titled debut album, but I do know you would end up going on the show for your sophomore album, but you would end up going on the Later with Jules Holland show, which I consider one of the best shows for music in general. So, like from my point of view, I was like, wow, this guy is just like, okay, maybe he's not like blowing up, but like people who
Out
know
here doing the good
anything,
work.
yeah, people who know anything about like music are paying attention to this man. And I, I'll always remember, because I was talking with a few friends of mine. And actually, funny enough, one of those friends actually like called me a few hours ago. And I was like making my list of what I thought the best albums of 2014 were. And and included in that were people like Saint Vincent, Freddie Gibbs. And one album, and your album came up. And I said it, and this is probably just me kind of, this was me kind of trying to be snarky and witty. And once again, this is not shade on this man, because I do actually I do respect this man. And I think I even have, yeah, because since I've been
This
showing
man
off
is on his
all the
Nardwar
stuff
shit
I
tonight,
own,
y'all.
Oh my god.
all the stuff I own. I do own like one of his albums, but I remember I said, this is the album that is going to give, your self-titled debut album, like this is the album that is going to give Jack White a run for his money, yeah. And and of course, thankfully, he would also, see that, and you would go on tour with him. But
I did not
I
know that.
was
That's crazy.
like, I was there from the get go. And just talking lyrically, talking about the song. I mean, very much. I would, and once again, there's my interpretation, and then there's what you're gonna say, which I don't know. And if like I get it wrong, feel free to correct me. I think, especially something that I understand better now, being older. That whole thing of like kind of being that whole kind of thing of kind of being young, and you're not trying to hurt your parents, but your parents kind of being in a place where they're very worried about you, and where they kind of see you trying to figure stuff out, and maybe you're not following all of their rules, but you're not doing it out of malice. You're just kind of trying to live you're just trying to live your life. But by all means, that doesn't stop your parents from being worried about you, for for having their own heartache about the direction you're going in life, and whether or not that's a good direction. And that's something that not proud of. I definitely have my own instances of giving my parents a heartache, which shout out to my parents, both of them. I trying to go on the right path in my life right now. Hope I make both of you guys proud. But yeah, I think there's just, I think there's just it's just a really great rocking tune with a lot of intensity and ingenuity. And the fact that it kind of cuts off into the second half, which is just a full-on instrumental break, and you just really feel the passion there at every step of the way. I guess
Thanks,
we
man.
should hand it. Hey, it's great. Like, really, greatly appreciated. Thank you for making this. What was it like making this song at all, Ian?
Well, I honestly think that was the first song that I wrote from of any. I think that was the first, like, I'm gonna start writing music now. The first song that I wrote.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I think that what I was interested in, I was reading a lot of James Baldwin at the time, and one of the things that I was interested in was the relationship between Black America and the church, and kind of Black people who had rejected the church, and how that had positioned them in relation to the Black community. You know what I mean? Like, I went on Travis Smiley one time, or Tavis Smiley,
Wow.
sorry. Tavis Smiley one time said that I didn't believe in God, and you could have heard pin drop silence, like pin drop silence. Like it was awkward. But that's what I'm saying. It's just like the song was just of course, being young, having this generational gap kind of thing. But I'm also interested in Black America's relationship to religion, and specifically this white religion, uh, that I don't feel any need to participate in. I think that that when you get more education and you hang out with, you start seeing more white people, and it's like they're not religious because they don't need religion. They have comfort from money and fucking their comfortable life. They don't need that. The religion is all we had. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, the religion is the thing that gives them that hope that we were talking about earlier. But if you really want to move forward, and we want to move forward as Black people, there's going to have to be some kind of rejection of religion and this idea that God is going to do things for us, because God is, to me, is not out there, and the only person who's going to do things for you is you. So that's kind of where my head was at the time.
I can tap in briefly.
Mhm.
My mother is a pastor. You know what I'm saying? She went to seminary when we were in middle
Shit.
school. It took her 6. No, and like, here's the tea, right? Here's the tea. So, like, my mother went to seminary for 6 years, more or
Mine did.
less. Wow. And so, like, gets the degree. And at the time, and for all my childhood, all I went to were white non-denominational churches because I'm from the suburbs. You get me? And so my mom and we were going to like the same white church for like all 4 years. My mom's like, "Look at my degree, dog. I'm finna start preaching up in this bit." And to my surprise, according to my recollection, dude is like, "We don't ordain women here."
That's what they said to my mom.
And oh my God, because I was personally offended because it's like, you see my mother every Sunday, she's going to school, and you just like keep that to yourself the whole time.
The crazy thing about my mom's situation is there was a seminary attached to the church. It was like the church's own school, and so she went through. The church paid all this money, and then at the end they were just like, "Nah, we're not gonna let you do anything here." You know.
And so that should really like radicalized me, but it still took me some time. I think what really just like killed like Christianity for me personally, because now I'm just like I say that I'm agnostic because like I'm open to being wrong if I'm actually wrong about anything. But like uh with like the rise of like white nationalism and things of that nature in today's public landscape, I'm like, there's no way you're gonna tell me that I'm like just gonna like claim the same faith as a lot of the folks that want to like eliminate me, my kinfolk, and my acquaintances. Like the two cannot like correlate for me personally. So I'm out. Since I moved to Philly, I maybe going to church like once. And like it was only because the person I was with works there. And we like had like a very just like color conversation about like, like a lot of this is not like just like does not feel right in my spirit. And there's this one brother I follow on TikTok where it's like when you mentioned earlier, like this like having an emotional like just a connection to Aretha's music and her like foundation and like gospel and such. That's Black music first before it's ever like Christian music.
Right.
And like that sermon I attended, it was like an Episcopalian sermon. It was Ash Wednesday. This congregation had $1 million organ in like their space, and so like and they sang like
that's so interesting. Sorry, I just have to say this because
it?
You were saying it's Black music first before it's Christian music. It's like Black people, even gospel music is the Black experience through a white lens because it's a white religion. So it's like that man, this is really I can't talk about this now. I have to think about it, but damn.
Because like the same person she was like, oh, my favorite singer, Will Liverman, Black opera singer. And I'm like, whoa, Black opera singer. That's tight. And like gave me
Black opera.
Bro, like if you look up Will Liverman, that boy can blow. It's crazy. And so like hands me like this big old playlist of like some of his best stuff. And like just the way that like he approaches that style with just like his Black experience. Like show me a performance of his where like they had I have the book around here somewhere. Charles Blow wrote like an autobiography about being raised in the South. And like him just like to my I don't want to misquote. I don't want to like because I'm still reading the book, but just being like being perceived differently from like from his siblings and from his peers, and just like it's just like this like the connection between this being in like this like these performative like just like performing and like this like spaces where like we're not usually like the like oh we like the Blacks gonna love this shit, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't really go to like these we don't go to opera, you know what I'm saying? We don't go to like Broadway musicals. Like they're not like, oh, we have to like Ramde and I are very familiar with like the Kennedy Center, and like
Yes.
my mom was always like, oh, we have to like go there at least every so often so we can see some high art and things like that. So like to connect that to Blackness and how like these consumers who pay top dollar to like see us and like just like the art that like kept us alive. And that's just like we're like who's like even in just like the like say like how drill here in the West is just like the flavor of the year, but like it's really just like comes from the UK and comes from just like Black spaces, you know what I'm saying, from African people, like from folks from the islands and stuff like that. Like I feel all of that when like I think about say like a John P. Key record or like a Fred Hammond record or a Kirk Franklin record, you know what I'm saying? Like it just like I remember this, bro, just like the debate my parent had about just like is Kirk Franklin gospel or not, like is he just like being
It
too
didn't
honest
feel like
about like
it didn't. You're right. It
no,
doesn't
and
feel
like it was hip hop as hell, bro.
yeah, bro.
This like this
Still is.
You
Still
wanna
is.
like it was hard. Like I wasn't just like the people like just like the God's property joints, just like
Oh man.
like for a proper 2 years, I explicitly listened to just like faith-based music. And one group in particular I love was like Take Six. And years down the line, I get into Jacob Collier, who's like signed to Quincy Jones, and like is on Tavis Smiley, getting backed up by Take Six. And it was just like, oh wow, like it's just like just being taken back to just that like 2 year period where I'm hearing just like a cappella, like gospel music, like
You guys
Mary
remember
Don't You Cry, Mary Don't You Weep. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like, cause like I'm looking at the lyrics for the song, Have You Seen My Son? And like we fought all the way from Florida down 110 to I-10 in New Orleans. I said God must love everyone, even the ones the church loves the least. And that is like my biggest like hang up with the church, because everywhere you go in Philadelphia, churches everywhere. Like I don't see as many mosques, but like I remember I came to Philadelphia on vacation. I wanted to see Tank and the Bangers with my best friend, and I'm like, oh, there are black people everywhere here, dog, and like they're really like in public, just like wearing like their spiritual garments, and that is a rarity where me and Ramade are from. We had a lot of folks from like this, like the Sikh community and things like that, but we didn't see a lot of like black folks practicing Islam in our town. And so I'm like, oh, like this is just like black people like live here. This is their city. And like for a little while, I'm like, oh, I want to like talk to like churches. Like I want like yo, so like where is the intersection of like, you know, like Philly being like a queer sanctuary city, like Philly being like on its face a very Islamic city. You know what I'm saying? Like the correlation between like addiction and houselessness and
Is that
like
where the Philly
Christianity.
beard comes from?
Say what?
Is it related? Is that where the Philly beard comes from? Is it related to Islam?
Questlove brought that up one time when he was like doing like a reaction. How I'm like, oh, like they were playing him some like new school Philly rap, and he's like, where are their beards though? These brothers ain't wearing they ain't got no beards.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
real though.
Oh,
It's
and
real.
yeah, and shout out to Freeway, you know, one of
Yes,
Philly's
sir,
finest
dog.
dudes. And that beard he's rocking, that's very much indicative of his Islamic faith, you know.
And so like I really wanted to like just like talk to these clergymen, and like I only pitched one brother who was considering talk, but he wanted me to like make a whole like shout out to our queen, Miss
Yeah,
Shemai.
hey, Mr. Mai, so you're so glad you can make it.
One of our personal friends. But like the one clergyman I spoke to about my project, I want to like talk to every church in the city, and like I want to like just like compare and contrast, like build like if you want like this sort of like if this is the sort of like gospel that you're like comfortable with, go to this one. But like he approached me as if like he had his guard up around me, and like want me like just like he wanted like he really like I didn't have any resources at the time. I was like getting out the mud. I'm just like, oh, like I'll put this on SoundCloud, like I just want to like get in where I fit in. I want to like understand what I'm lacking. Because even going to like black non-denominational churches, rife with just like interpersonal drama, like going to like Baptist congregations and like having to like wear a suit every Sunday, it was like hard for me. Like my father, like God rest him, like he was like a Reformed Catholic. And like I was like, y'all got so many rules that nobody else has to follow. And like I never understood that, but like,
Where's your dad from?
Baltimore, believe it or not.
Oh,
Yeah.
the only black Catholic people I've ever met were New Orleans. It's like all black Catholic people, and you're just like crazy, bro. Like they have black Catholic schools there. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
it's all Catholic.
We're just like the one thing I do like the Catholics got that I think every denomination should have was the whole like excommunication thing. But like it has to actually work. It has to actually work, because the way they be passing around, they be trading these creepy ass pastors and such, like these fathers and such. I'm like, so like y'all have it, but who's it actually for if not for the folks putting in the work? like
True.
doing like some foul mess. And I'm like, because like, oh, like if you have like a guy who's out here preaching white power or just like on some like, you know, like in some like 45 type time, it's like, all right, cool. Like you're on here on some hateful shit, but you're in church every Sunday, bro. You're excommunicated. You can't come back here. And we finna tell everybody about you behind. And it's just like, we don't do that. We should all do that. But like, everyone's got their own book. Everyone's got their own rules. And I'm like, if we can't all operate on the same kind of time, I can't participate. There are far too many of y'all like choosing your own like specific, like it's like a subgenre of Christianity, dog. And I'm like, and
they'll take anybody who pays tithe. You know what I mean? Like they don't care.
They need that 10%. And I'm like, son, like y'all gonna be using that 10% and saving the fucking city, saving the goddamn country. And like,
I gotta take a pee break. I'm sorry.
Do you think us?
It's all good.
We've been, we've been on this stream for like 2.5 hours.
And we're just about to get to like the last song, aka the reason we were able to get this we were lucky to get this man on the show at all.
Let me do these Johns now, since like we have more than like one person in the audience. This has been Ken Mide Presentations, Fortuitous Footnotes from 2014, Side A. No idea when Side B is gonna drop, but because I know that as soon as we finish like talking about Freddie and Madlib, we're getting the heck out of here. Like,
yeah,
drink your water, wear your masks, tell yourself you love yourself. Like, I might as well tell you that now, so you can't say I didn't say it later. It is like just when you think that like nothing can surprise you, like one of our best and brightest just happened to like pass us by on the internet highway. I said, let me rock with y'all for a bit, man.
Yeah. And yeah.
We gotta just continue giving man the flowers. And like I want to tell man something when he gets back about, but I want to like make a connection to Fall Out Boy. It's small, but like I'm gonna make the connection.
Yeah, and this is why I am so thankful that by some, I mean, granted, he explained that he's not doing anything, but this miracle, the fact that we were able to get this man here in the first place, because this conversation is going to so many interesting places that I couldn't have predicted, and. Oh yeah, and funny enough, in you talking about different subgenres of Christianity, every now and then I feel like I need to remind. I kind of need to remind people
what is this?
that I like from one of my local thrift stores. This is the New Testament, and this is like the Bible.
I remember that from 8th grade.
Yeah, yes. So basically, so in terms of how they've always kind of tried to rebrand Christianity, here's a Bible that was made to appeal to like baby boomers in the 60s and 70s. It's got all, it has a bunch of biblical passages, but it also kind of has like, oh, hey, look at all these cool, hip young people living their lives and stuff like that. And I guess it's
at churches. Beer nights to try to get people to come in. It's like
yeah, and it's funny because because we're coming off from the Super Bowl and stuff like that, and those new Jesus ads that are just
terrifying.
Like, oh hey, hey, Jesus got us, man. And it's not even that I disagree. It's not even that I'm like disagreeing with this message of trying to. Like in some way trying to bring love to people who feel disenfranchised by society, but at the same time, you are also
way too freaking polarizing.
Exactly, and it's like, and it also doesn't take enough accountability for the church's place in that kind of polarization, and it's. It is what it is.
Bring it back in. Ben, I wanted to tell you that when I was listening to Have You Seen My Son, like the three words in my head that came like to me was like rock and roll. And like I know that's really, really fucking cheesy, but like I think back to when like Fall Out Boy got back together after that long ass hiatus and put out Save Rock and Roll, and I'm like, this is like the poppiest he's ever sounded. Like, and I'm not, I don't get it. I'm like, the connection isn't there for me, and I'm like, it's a buzzword for them, and cool, whatever, I guess, like whatever gets like the gravy train rolling. But like hearing your music is like, oh, this is like that pure, like uncut rock and roll. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
for real, for real.
The thing that I realize that you get from different genres is different energies. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
at its essence, rock is about rawness. It's about kind of like youthful energy. And at the time, that's what I was into. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like happy about that record because it to me, when I listened to it, I listened to it recently. It does feel alive in that way to me. So I'm happy with it.
And and once again, since it's not every day, we literally have the man, the person who made a record that we're talking about. I kind of have to also ask about the music video, which was this really really cool, gritty, like black and white video of you kind of just wondering. I think was like an abandoned prison or something. How did that happen?
It's honestly really crazy. I'm not a very smart person. The video came around because I needed to do a video. When I got into music, I was not like oh, I can't wait to do videos and do, like, I cared about the music. I didn't really think about those kinds of things back then. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, oh shit, I'm playing music now. I have to make videos. But a bunch
Right.
of people were sending me ideas, and they were just all ridiculous. It was like, the stacks of TVs behind you, like the party scenes, like that kind of stuff. And Rick sent me this guy, Rick Alverson, this director, sent me this video treatment that was just like, he was like, I just kind of want you to just like walk around. And I was like, this guy. And I met him, and he was the biggest weirdo, like a really pretentious movie guy in the best way, where it's like everything that he wanted to do was just like, he was like, let's make it this aspect ratio just to fuck with people. Like, but my point
Okay,
is
he wanted to
that,
experiment, right?
my point is that I'm an idiot. Like, when we were doing that video, he saw me and was using me to make his own art. Really, that video is not me. Like, looking back on it, it's like, oh, this is a young black kid wandering around an empty prison, and it's like, it didn't click in my head that that's what we're doing. I thought, oh, this is just a cool. Like, I literally didn't even think about that at the time. I thought these would be cool shots in this like abandoned prison. Like, but he was looking at me as a black kid because he's a white guy, and like he I think that he did it in a cool way, because it's like he made something that is saying something about the black experience that I wasn't even paying attention to, and I'm down with it and support his message. And I'm like, damn, bro, like Rick, he really just delivered on that in a way that I had nothing to do with that at all. Like,
and when we do end up making a video on 2017, which I don't know, which we just putting it out there, it will be really cool if you could make an appearance on that video as well. We will I definitely feel free for us to talk more about that, as well as how that pertains to witness, which granted, not to, I mean, not hint to anyone who's listened to this record, which I greatly recommend that you do. Definitely aggressively kind of delves into a lot of these subject matters, which granted, I mean, you would understand better than I can describe, but
oh yeah, then I'm just diving deeper and deeper in. I'll send you guys the new music, but you just got
That'll
to
be a
do it.
treat.
You just got to do it. I went to I've never told anybody this before, but I went to Atlanta to play a show, and I had never been to the Martin Luther King stuff there. You know, they have this church
Mm.
there, the monuments and everything. And I got up early in the morning. I got there when they opened. I was the first person in the church, like Martin Luther King's church, just empty. Me, like 8 o'clock in the morning there. And I just remember walking in and sitting down and just immediately bawling, just like bawling, just
Right,
alone.
the gravity, right?
It was heavy because I think that I realized just the sacrifice that the man made, you know what I mean? Like um to really live where your body is on the line, you know what I mean? Like they're
Yes.
coming for you. Like that is different. But I think that artists, you don't have to do that, but I
Mhm.
think that it's if you can, it's rewarding and it helps, you know.
I'll say this. I'll say this like this one bit, and we can move on to like the Freddie and Mad Lib. When I moved to
Yeah.
Philly, I got my hands on like the graphic novel of John Lewis's life, and they're like 3 volumes. They go into a lot of detail, things I never learned in school, and like there's 3 things like jumped out at me. Like one where they're at like I think they're at the conference for like the Democrats, and like everyone in like the civil rights movement who was in attendance, like they were being like avoided like the plague. Like everyone's like was just like moving away from them where they were standing, witnessing the events. And like when the one sister got to speak about like how like she was just like been mistreated, and how like the White House is like turn that shit off now. Like the public cannot hear what she's
Yeah.
saying, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're gonna be in big trouble. Like that messed with me. Just like the depictions of violence, I almost couldn't like read that. I couldn't just like the way that they just like illustrated that was really hard to see. It was really just hard to like just take in. That was really like bad for me. And even like during like the 20 like the George Floyd demonstrations, one thing that like broke me, I'll say, was 2 brothers arguing during a protest. One younger, a little old, one younger, a little older. They were like just like not seeing eye to eye on how they wanted to proceed that evening. And like the older one grabbed like a young guy. He was like, "We're out here for him, while we're trying to keep him and his friends safe." And he looked at him and was like, "Y'all have to find a way that works because we don't have it. And I don't want to go home to my son who's younger than you and have nothing to say to him." And like he's just like getting emotional over it. And it just like I realized that at that point, like I can't see like Black men from my father's generation. I can't see them just like crack under the pressure, because then I'm gonna crack. And not that like that they shouldn't, but it's just that like I hate to see them just like give it like just like just like that dam of emotions flow like
It happens almost every
in
time.
public, where it's like at the worst of times, where it's like when you speak on like this travesty, it's like I shouldn't even have to do that for y'all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like since you won't listen to anybody else say it, like it was him and like one of like those the NBA coaches to speak on this like the atrocities that this nation is committing on a regular basis. That like got under my that like just like it's in here, it's never gonna go away. And the third thing was when John and one of his homies, they were out and about and they saw Malcolm X when he was being like stalked by like the feds. And he's like, "Yo, let's go get something to eat. I want to talk to y'all. Like, I've seen some shit." I think he just got come back from like his pilgrimage, and he's like, "Bro, like, my eyes are open, and like, y'all need to just move careful out here. And I love y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all on the flip." And then they never saw him again.
Mhm.
And I was just like, "Bro, like, because they'd seen him previously before he had left. It's like he felt different, and it's just like can't put my finger on it, but like he's changed." And like they're just like, "Wow." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh," and then I had never seen like the Denzel Spike Lee John, but like after like soon, like I think like a year later, I saw that movie. I watched the whole thing in one sitting, and that's a long movie. And I had to
Yeah.
read Malcolm's book for high school. And even then I'm like, whoa, like this is I had never read anything like that.
There's a new one.
Is
Just
there?
It won the Pulitzer Prize last year. I read it. Or in 2021, I think. Damn, I listened to the audio book of it. But there's a new book about Malcolm X that is probably more insightful than the autobiography.
Okay, I'm gonna try and get that. I need that.
You should definitely check it out. Yeah, it's a real bummer. It's like, I mean, basically with all of those people, like the leaders in the 60s, it's like they were not killed by the government, but essentially the government let them be killed. Which, I mean, they're not supposed to let murders happen. That's one of their jobs. But
the functions, but like,
yeah, and yeah, and I guess in kind of talking about our whole relation, and granted, and yes, technically, I should be saving this for when we talk about stuff on 2017, but in also going through everything that was happening during 2020, and just I don't know how it was really impossible to look through, because if you're not looking at footage from the news, you're looking at it through social media, and it was really very difficult to not feel disoriented pretty much every day. And one of the ways I was kind of coping with it was through listening to my records disc, which I am plugging for the fourth time this video. And I think believe was really one of the songs on here that really kind of helped me through that whole situation. And
that's awesome, man.
And
that's a good.
I mean,
if I'm honest, I probably have. I tell my friends this. I don't usually say it out in public, but people know that you have a couple songs that are. I have maybe 5 songs that I'm like, yes, those. But you just keep trying to stack those songs up. I like all of the music that I make. I listen to the records. I love all of the songs. But I would say when I think if you guys are breaking down songs on here, if I had to break down my own songs, I would say that Believe, Slow Coming, Violent Shiver. Those are 3 that I think I feel strong about holding up. So that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and we will have a whole lot more to talk about when we talk about stuff from 2017, and and believing there's so much to talk about on this album, which I've heard your interviews about it here and there, but it's a whole, for as much as I try to have my analytical framework on it, it's a whole different story actually hearing it from the man himself. So when we do talk about stuff from 2017, if you are available, we would absolutely love to have you back on the show. But hey, we shall we
it's time.
It's time for the guy.
It is indeed time.
Thanks to Gibbs.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay, so
this shit is a soap opera. First of all, this shit,
absolutely.
Days of Our Lives. Who?
Okay, so I mean, on your IG post, I said, it's kind of like, what if a Raymond Carver short story became a rap song? And to those who don't know Raymond Carver, who actually I have one of his short story collections right here, Shortcuts, which
of course
was which was then adapted into a Robert Altman film, and in true Robert Altman fashion, he took 9 short stories that had absolutely nothing to do with each other and made it into one big ensemble piece. That the entire film is an adaptation of all those short stories. Shout out to only Robert Altman, the legends only. But the reason I always compared Freddie Gibbs Mad Lib Deeper to like a Raymond Carver short stories. Was Carver was really good at making stories about personal dysfunction in relationships, about relationships relationships between people where they were so clearly on their last legs, but people were still kind of try to find some way to save face, even though there's this gigantic dysfunction that is so clear to everyone, that is so clear that you can see from a mile away. And you know, and you know, to talk about Freddie Gibbs, you know, I was already aware of, because I think it was like around like 2010, 2011 when I heard the Straight Killer album, which had National Anthem, which, you know, shout out to that song. And even then people were kind of comparing him to Tupac, which we'll get to that.
Oh my
He also
God.
I'm not a Tupac guy.
Yeah. You know, I respect him, but you
Hey,
know,
Laura, if
it's
I
what it
may,
is. Uh-huh.
on the Jaded forum,
Uh-huh.
really early into the podcast, they have like one of like Shakur's like relatives, like young relatives,
Uh-huh.
and like they talk about like the last Kendrick run with Mr. Morale, and they're basically like of the mind of like if K Dot was doing all that, then like everything like his ambition, his Pac like ambitions kind of like missed the boat on that if he was wearing like the iced out like crown of thorns and things of that nature. And like I if I can snitch on myself, I never even heard a full Tupac record, but like I kind of don't have to with the way that he's deified. So make of that what you will.
Yeah. It's something I have a love hate. It's something I have a love hate relationship with.
You'll have the
I
time to get
find
into
it
that
really.
tonight.
I have it really. I find it really annoying, but you know, I still give him my respect. But yeah, Freddie Gibbs. But the straight.
Oh, hold
Yeah.
on. Go ahead.
Yes, Miss. Yes. Uh.
I just I don't know what it is about Tupac. I don't. I'm trying to just think about what it is about him because it doesn't make sense. Like why I don't like him that much. If I had to say anything, I would say it's like he doesn't have the sensitivity that I like in a lot of artists. Like even if he is singing a song like I'm thinking about like Brenda's Got a Baby or something like that. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't hit me emotionally the way that it should. You know what I mean? Like
I felt the way about Dear Mama, kinda.
it's like he's giving me he's famous for the writing for really giving people these topics that they needed to hear and being that figure at that time, but maybe on a technical kind of like real technical like are you effective like emotionally like how good is your writing I just don't think it's there really it doesn't hit me the way that Gibbs hits me, you know what I mean? He doesn't have those kinds of lines to me, but I don't know.
You know, that's interesting. That's interesting, and that's something
Hear these bars
I'll
real
continue
quick.
to think more. You know, but yeah, you know, Freddie was doing a lot of really cool stuff even before the Pinata album, and even shout out to a collab he did with a New Zealand rapper who was I was convinced was going to be the next up, David Dallas, who I think he was briefly signed with Buckshot's Duck Down Records, and
You were
he
convinced a
dropped
New Zealand rapper was gonna be next up?
like I thought he would okay, I thought he would at least get love from us underground guys. Like I thought
Okay, the
like us
backpackers are
under
gonna be fucking with him for sure.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I thought like us like backpack underground guys like you know who are like all about you know being on the real that we were gonna keep showing love to him,
5
but
pillars.
you know, but you know, I mean he dropped the Rose Tint album. I thought it was dope and he still tried to do stuff, but you know, it kind of ended after Rose. but he did a collab. But yeah, he did a collab with Freddie Gibbs. Caught in a Daze, which I thought, which was stuff that was really helping keeping Freddie Gibbs like around for me. So even before Pinata happened, I was like already like really aware on this guy. And so when Pinata happens, it's like, oh, cool, a new Freddie album. And he's working with Madlib, who, and Madlib, his classics as a producer, even before like the Pinata were already massive. Like, I do not even need to talk about Mad Villainy, which, like,
Never heard of it.
Yo, Matt. Yeah. Like, geez, man. Geez, man. Mad Villainy. I mean, like, I mean, like,
the best
could
rapper?
I make it? Yeah. Like, could I make it any more
Okay.
clear how teenage me was pretty much raised by Adult Swim, right? If not mentioning my affinity for Mad Villainy. So I hear, hey, Freddie.
He doesn't have one of those records. He doesn't have one of those records.
Who?
Freddie. I don't think that Freddie has a Mad Villainy, like a classic. Record.
Honestly, I would agree. I
don't think if it weren't for these Madlib records, he would not be as well regarded in like in the mainstream category.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. And
it comes down to production, yeah. Like he just, because when he did like the, I heard him with Currency on that that album.
Oh right, yeah, Fetty.
I was like, all right, but it's just something about when he's with Madlib is different. I think maybe it's a lot of times it's like when you really respect somebody, you work harder, and I think that he really respects Madlib.
100%.
Yeah. I would agree. And I mean, and Pinata has so many standout tracks, but there's just something about Deeper that just keeps me coming back to that song. And
I think about it all the time. I literally think about it all the time. There's almost no song that I have that relationship with where it's just like, damn, that's a good song. This song could be, I think, arguably the best song ever written, in my opinion. Like, I can't imagine you doing more on a song. Like, what else could you do? Like, it's as good as any other song.
To be honest with you, when I hear like, because I didn't like really hear Pinata when it came out, but like I saw just like how this and like Bandana kind of like just like really just shifted hip hop and like all my hey Lauren, I have a friend, Rolando, I'll call him, who just like would have this on all the time when I visit. And like he only did like 3 bands: Radiohead, King Gizzard, and Freddie Gibbs. And I'm just like, wow, like just like the build to that is bonkers bananas town for me. But I feel like you know who probably heard this shit and like put it into his own work again, Tyler. Because I think about A Boy Is a Gun, and I'm like, oh, this is his Deeper for sure, without a shadow of a doubt.
It was a big deal because when I was younger, I didn't listen to hip hop, and I didn't listen to a lot of black music because the black music that you heard, because I was, like I said, I was a writing person, and like the black music that you heard was so surface, like so there was nothing to it. You know what I mean? Like Crank That Soldier Boy. It's like, what do I do with that? You know what I mean? Like I'm struggling.
Can't do much after like you're tired. It's like, well, like.
But I'm not saying I love as a song. I think that's an incredible song. But I'm saying like I go to music to like get stuff to live by, and it's like I couldn't do anything with that. But when Freddie Gibbs came out with this, was around the same time that I was also going back to like more of the early '90s stuff. This is before I was writing the second album. That's why almost songs like Witness, you can hear some more boom bappy kind of like beats because I was listening to all that stuff. But Freddie Gibbs, when that came out, I was like, Yes, I was like, this is my Bob Dylan. Like, this is my guy. He can compete at that level. Like, I can't believe this. Like, and another person now, a rapper who I think is doing this is Billy Woods, who I just saw last night.
Hip
But
hop legend.
I just met him for the first time last night.
That must have
But
been crazy.
oh, but that's what I'm saying. Is just like this opened the doors for I think a lot of young Black people who were just like, fuck, bro. Like I didn't even know that it was
Possible to
possible
do shit like this.
that to do this. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was a big deal. I think it was a really big deal. And I think that he's just doing his thing now. He might not go further or whatever, but it's like looking back years from now, I think he's going to get his respect. I think he will get it.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think, and I think, because I always remember, granted, this was like an interview with Madlib, and, and he was really kind of hyping up the album. He's like, and he kind of made it clear, like, hey, everyone can't rap under my beat. Like, I have beats. I make beats where you really have to like be very in lock with some kind of rhythm, with some kind of storytelling to deliver. And it's so far it's been MF Doom, and now it's Freddie. And
Yeah.
hey, that ain't that a way to hype up your album. But I think with a song like Deeper, just the storyline. I mean, the storyline is what it is. I mean, I think like the breakup songs are always going to exist. Breakup songs in hip hop, they exist. I mean, Jay-Z song Cry and all that stuff. But there's something about deeper where, yeah, it is, once again, in kind of going back to the Raymond Carver comparison, is that as much as, our main character seems to be stuck in this space between like very much being angry at the fact that, his former partner, his like ex-girlfriend has left him, but at the same time he has like moments of like self examination of like, oh well, yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense, maybe you're
I'm
staying there.
immature, like yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, maybe you grew up and I'm still living like I'm 16
Yeah.
16 And it's like, and and I think it's that honesty of being able to be like, okay, well, I think you really suck for what you did to me. But then again, I kind of understand that I didn't give you the best options. But at the same time, I still really think you suck over this. And it's that kind of contradiction. It's that kind
The
of
nuance
like,
to the situation, yeah, that's just like
yeah,
Lots of
that's
detail.
it's not even just in rap. In music, in recorded music in general, you never get anything like this. That's what I'm saying. It's like you never get something this nuanced, this complicated. Like the thing that got me was there's a line where he says, I love her and she love him, so I'd never touch him. And it's
That's
like
a bar. That's
that
a
that's
bar.
the
yeah,
line to me because it's a bigger philosophical thing about what is love. What does it mean to love somebody? What does that look like? Like is if you really love somebody, it means that you want to see them be happy no matter what happens. And like that's what he's saying. Like as this thug, as this guy who fucking kills people, I fucking sell dope, I do all this fucking hard shit. I love this woman. She's the mother of my child, and she loves this man. And so, fuck, what am I gonna do? I can't do anything. And that's him being a real man in a way that you don't see Black men portrayed in songs ever. It's mature. It's maturity. It's wisdom. You know what I mean? Like it's fucking incredible. It's incredible.
The restraint. Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, this is one of the greatest songs ever made.
You know, and like usually even this with that couplet, I'm immediately taken back like to like All the Lights, and like Aylor has heard me complain about this fucking song, but just like, oh, like,
yeah,
you know,
we both, yeah,
it's
we
like, you know,
both
like
had our
dude goes
discourse on this.
away, comes back, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna take mans to the ghetto university, and it's just like, damn, like, but like, it's like, like, cause like, I think I see the scenario already. It's like, it's supposed to like be a moment of like, oh, like it's my redemption. I'm gonna see the kid. I'm gonna see Shorty, but like, who the heck is who is this guy? Right. I'm gonna put the beat the brakes off mans, because like this is where I'm supposed to be, and you're here. Ooh, it's like, damn, cuz, you know, like,
But you know what's interesting about that situation is that, like,
Mhm.
when you live in America, it's like there that's what's expected. Like, it's like you are expected to act that way. But when I really think about black people that I know, they don't act that way. You know what I mean? Like, they would act more like Freddie Gibbs acts. It's like
you're
that's
gonna
what
have to hold that. You're gonna have to hold this L.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah,
hold this
and
in. It's what you normally see is this kind of like wild, kind of like lashing out, violent Black American. But like we said earlier, it's like we've never been violent. We never did. We have every reason to lash out and be violent, and we never do it. And what Freddie Gibbs is giving us is this real version of a Black person, which is just like we are thoughtful, we are wise often. You know what I mean? Like this is the best representation of a Black person I've ever seen in a song. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, and the fact that and the fact that he's as the song progresses, he makes it very clear, hey, I'm moving on in my life, I'm doing my thing, I'm moving, I still carry that heartache, and that's why, in spite of various people wanting to be close to me in the way that we were close, I don't know if I can open myself up to that. And
mhm.
then, here comes the big kicker where, reaches back out to him, and,
He fucking M
yeah,
Night
and
Shyamalan's us in a song, bro.
yeah, and it makes you think about the many dichotomies, how like we try to like restart ourselves, we try to go in this new direction in our lives, we have this set idea, like, and by all means, hey, something, even he admits, hey, the girl, she wanted more for herself, she wanted more for her life, she wanted more than just more than just being, the hood the quote unquote hood baby mama. And you know and maybe, perhaps, you could argue that she rushed into it too fast, but it was something. But who wouldn't want to go into that more respectable route? And yet, unfortunately, in spite of doing that, this ghost, the ghost of her previous relationship with Reddy has come back to haunt her, which, it's funny, because once again, I was kind of seeing it, once again, in kind of that Raymond Carver comparison and all of that. It didn't even dawn on me for a while that I should pinpointing it as, Freddie being the father, even though, that's the pretty obvious conclusion to take it into. That I just kind of saw it more as just like how, at the end of the day, how like there's a major difference between the plans that, how we kind of see our lives going into, and the connections we think we're going to have with people, and where those people end up going in general. And of course, it makes more sense for like Freddie to be the father, but yeah, it's, I mean, I don't know, it's, and in spite of this, I have no delusion that in some way it ends with like Freddie and the girl getting back together and being like, oh hey, yeah, picking stuff back up. No, it's like that door was closed for a reason. And even with this, it's just there's a complication with that door remaining closed. But I would imagine it will still be closed. But then that's the brilliant storytelling nature of the song. It opens so many levels that, like I don't know, like is there any future you could imagine for these two three people, the quote unquote astronaut?
Square ass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, and yeah, like I mean,
Yeah.
because
What do you think?
where do you kind of see,
Really not.
yeah.
If I'm being real, but like, I think, but hey, but like, because
I
we
think
did talk about
it is real. Part of me, I don't know. Do you know Freddie Gibbs' life? Because
a
this
little
seems,
bit.
this seems very real to me. And what seems like has happened is that Freddie Gibbs got his shit together. You know what I mean? He became a family man.
Yes.
He's like the most clean. He's like the most cleaned up rapper imaginable. Like he's the guy on the gram with doing his kid's hair and shit. You know what I mean? Like
Still like the
he
king of the trolls, but like not in the
yeah,
50 Cent kind of way.
but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's very respectable. Like he could be at the soccer practice and like not
Yeah, I feel like at first I'm like, oh no way, but then it's like, wait a minute, we just talked about how he showed like he turned the other cheek when he clearly and like he didn't have to, but he's like, oh that, but like I do love her, so I'm gonna hold my tongue. I'm not gonna swing on mans. I'm not gonna like bop him with the butt of my gun. And it's like, oh, like because like like not like you took one for the team, but it's like, oh, like that's just the way shit go. And like I'm gonna go this way, and they're gonna go that way, and it's like, oh, cool, but like this is your child, and like I would like you to be involved, type shit.
I love how the song, and you guys will relate to this as like nerdy black people. I like this song, how it talks about this like bigger thing in the black community of like, there's like the dorky, nerdier black people. There's the black people who are like selling drugs, doing that kind of thing. Like, but as I've gotten older, I realized it's like, man, those kids really had a hard time. You know what I mean? Like, it's like anytime that anybody would come after me, it's like they're seeing me and the future that I have, and they're seeing their options and knowing that they don't have those options. And like
Yeah.
you get that kind of feeling in that astronaut line where it's like he's like, oh, this guy, this astronaut, and it's like it's not a kind of just like fuck smart people or just like people who are doing good. It's kind of like I wish I
wanted
had
that shit.
like you're selling drugs,
Oh, yeah.
and like if I had better options. That's something that is a bigger. It's like I think that there's a lot of like white Americans and just people in the world in general who think that black people want to sell drugs. And it's like the only thing to do is sell drugs. It's like nobody wants to sell drugs. Like
Again, that how the correlation of like him like talking to Nas for like 48, and it's like, is anyone like in like the Odd Future camp gonna write a song about like drug dealers' remorse and shit? Like it's like hope
Rick
is a
Ross,
very
Rick Ross gets into the remorse thing. I think kind of just the emotional. He gets into the emotional kind of toll of the dealing. I think he talks to it on that song that we were talking about earlier, the Rich Nigga one.
Yes,
right.
Where
like
it's just like I
this,
have to do this, but it's fucking killing me, bro. It's wearing me down,
And I think that's exactly what I in kind of talking about the nuance of it, in him loving her and kind of having to accept that this is the path that she's went. Like even when she's like, hey look, I get it. You want a life, you want a life that has nothing to do with me and what I'm doing. And okay, all right, cool. All right, cool. I do not rock with this dude at all, but I get why you chose him. But like, look, it's very obvious what, there's a line between you doing what is best for you and you also kind of forcing yourself into a lifestyle that you want. And it's like, and even me, the drug dealer, your drug dealer ex-boyfriend who couldn't stop going into prison can notice that. And it's like, hey look, I get it, you don't want me in your life, but you are clearly rushing too deep into having this thing with this guy. And unfortunately having to learn the hard way the consequence of that, because this thing that she's built up with this man, we have I mean, hopefully in the greatest ending, in a really cool solid ending, he finds out that he's not the father, but it's also like, okay, you know what, cool, you
Does
had
he
your thing
find
with
out?
that.
Is
No,
it?
no, no, no. We never find out. I'm just
Oh, he's like
hypothetical.
best case scenario.
Who's it?
Hypothetical. Best case scenario. He finds out that he's not the father of the kid. He's like, all right, all right, heartbroken, but it is what it is. You had your relationship with this man. Yeah, what you did. And the
Go in
stuff that happens
peace.
in this relationship happens. Let's all just work it out. And you know what? And it does make you think, and like, and there is, maybe that's the fantasy way to end a storyline like that. But also by that same logic, would it have been a fantasy for someone like, for Gibbs, or the character that Freddie is portraying himself in this song? Would it have been a fantasy for him to? It have also just been a fantasy for him to get his act together and actually, make something out of himself? So
That's
you
what
know,
he did.
it,
Though. That's what he did.
exactly. So perhaps that best case scenario is not that far off, perhaps the more realistic one is, oh hey, he finds out, heartbroken, says, adios, and like,
Yeah.
and but in
I think I think it was a smarter writing choice to leave it open.
Ambiguous.
Whose is it? Like that's a better. It's like when you the movies that end on like those are always more fun. You're just like,
Inception. Yeah.
yeah, you're
yeah
just like, well, that's what he did.
What
The way that he wrote this is I can't. There's no way that he didn't just like spend a lot of time just going over this and over and over because it seems too like there's no way he just wrote this, right? You think it was just
I
one of those like 10-minute sessions? It seems so
no
poured over.
way.
It
No
seems
way.
so
like
He
poured.
took his time with this shit for sure. And
yeah
This
like
yeah
this is like I have to have like this is like my magnum opus song. It's like I can't imagine anyone. It's crazy.
I want to just briefly
like
shout out like Madlib pulling this like the deeper sample, and like the fact that like it's cited, because earlier today I was watching like this like there's like I feel like there's like a new trend in YouTube where like fathers and sons will get together and react to records together,
Oh
and
yeah.
like dude was playing Food by MF Doom for his daddy, and at first like, man, what the hell is this? Like he was very just like dismissive. But like once he heard like the samples that Doom was pulling for the songs, he's like, oh, hold up,
Yeah.
let this man cook. And just like the one sample for like one beer, they couldn't find the source, And I'm so stoked that like someone found the source for this song because the song's still available on streaming, and I'm like, oh, I want to listen to this record and see how like dude chopped it up because like he probably brought the beat and he's like, what you want to do with this? He's like, oh shit, like give me like a week and I'm gonna have a full song for you and shit. And
He
like,
did say he said that he sent him loads of music and that he
wow,
literally wrote for every single song. Like he said, he just immediately sent him. He did say that. Now that I'm thinking, he didn't say. I don't know how much time passed, but he said that. I heard Mad Lib say that he sent him just like CDs of music, and that Freddie Gibbs just like sent him back a song for like literally everything that he sent him. I think he just has one of those. You can tell just from listening to him that he has lived like you art is only as interesting as the person making it. You know what I mean?
agreed.
Like, so it's like he that's what I hear in my own music. I'm not trying to throw shade on people. It's like when I listen to my stuff when I was younger, it's like oh yeah, it's like I was listening to less
Hungry.
stuff. I knew less. It's not as complex. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you grow and the music grows. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'll say this, and we can wrap. There's a band I like called Coheed and Cambria, and the lead singer and guitarist Claudio Sanchez has a comic book, and a lot of the songs have to deal with the book that he was writing, and was recently was in France with his wife, and like she writes the comic book with him, and he's like, "Yo, when was the last time we were here?" And she's like, "25 years ago," and he's like, "All right, bet. I think it's finally time to end this shit." Because like he came out to like write for the book, and he's like, oh, like I think it's like this. I feels like kind of like we're at a funeral or some shit like that. Like I think it's finally time to end this thing. And I'm like, damn, like imagine like working on some shit for 25 years, like and like just like finding like the ideas to end like a project in the same place you started the shit.
Yeah.
And like
Bruce Springsteen talks about working on it's really good to study people. I love studying
a
people.
box, baby.
I love studying people and their process, like how they got to making their thing. But he talks about being indulgent in just as an artist in the process in taking your time and stuff. He was talking about the album, whatever album he has, that's like has "Dancing in the Dark" on it, which is a song.
Okay.
Born in the USA. Yeah.
Oh, is it on
Yeah,
that one?
Born in the
I
USA.
didn't know that
maybe,
one.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
you're
yeah.
thinking of a different one. Damn, my point is that he has one album. He's talking about he has an album where it was like 10 songs. He had 9 songs, and he said that he spent like a year writing the last song because he was like, I just needed the thing to round it. I just needed it to be perfect. You know what I mean? Like, but it took him a fucking year to get that song. But that was like the hit of the album. Yeah, it was what made it like a big record. But it's just like sometimes that's how it is. You know what I mean? You gotta. It takes as long as it takes. Everyone knows when things are great. You know what I mean? It's undeniable.
Yes.
It's
There's that
undeniable.
undeniable again. Yes.
Mhm.
So if it doesn't feel like that to you, it doesn't feel like that to anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so hard to do that about your own stuff. You know what I mean? But the people who are very good, very, very good, are people who can say that about their own stuff. It's just like, this is great. This is not so great. You know what I mean? Like, but then
Right.
when you start doing that, you get like good people who are really good. Uh, their worst songs are only so bad. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
talking again about like a Nirvana or something like that. Look at an album that everybody knows, Nevermind or something like that. It's like, what are the B-sides? Drain You? Like it's like, come on, like these are incredible songs. It's
No,
like,
and like it's so crazy you say that because that's a Coheed and Cambria cover. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like their go-to. Like, oh, bet we're not playing our own shit. I know this one Nirvana song we can whip out.
yeah. But it takes so much work to be good, to be great. But a lot of what I think involves being great is out of your control. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
You can only listen and be available to receive the inspiration, but the inspiration is coming from your life, like the movies that you're taking in, the music that you're listening
Oh yeah.
to, everything else. So it's like you're only going to make stuff that is the summation of all of those things, and there's no way, unless you were just like in a white room controlling everything that you do, that you'd be able to control that. You know what I mean? I just tell people you have to do the best you can in any situation. But even if you do the best you can, there's definitely going to be a time in my life where it's like I'm writing as fucking hard as I can, and the album is just okay. Like I know that it's coming, you know what I mean?
Mm.
But it's just like that's all, you can't do anything about that. You know what I mean? Like it happens. That I mean, I feel that way kind of about the last record that I was working on, where it's like I like the album, the songs resonate with me, the lyrics, when I go over it, it's there, but it's just like, damn, it doesn't feel to me the way that the first album felt to me. I know why, because it's like I didn't have the vision that I had then, but it's like you have to be honest with yourself about these things. I think it's important, you know.
That's
Yeah,
raw.
I mean, I think that at this time in my life, I mean, granted, I don't know, I I've tried to be more honest about what resonates with me, what
Mhm,
no what resonates with me, why it resonates with me,
mhm,
and what I'm kind of taking, what specifically what I'm taking from it, which I now understand can often be different from what the next person does. I remember watching this old documentary on John Ford, considered one of the most prolific directors of all time. And it's interesting, and you have all the other great considered great directors, Spielberg and Scorsese, talking about what resonates with them. And it's interesting, like what Spielberg's talking about when he talks about his what resonates about Ford is it's really the imagery and all of that stuff. Whereas with Scorsese, he was talking more about how he was able to get actors to interact with one another, and it's really, I don't know, maybe it's about, just, getting older and being honest about your relationship with art, and what your relationship with art kind of is saying about you and your development as a person. And just, I
well,
think
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's something that I think I'm growing to better understand now. I think I still kind of need to take my various journey through that, but
Mhm.
it's something that I'm kind of grow. I definitely have a better understanding of it now than I would have, say, back in 2014.
Mhm. I think that people, like what I was thinking about recently is like people who are really kind of incredible, like touchstones in the history of music. It's like they have a vibe to their music. Like when you think about somebody like Bob Marley, it's like you know what his music feels like before you even put the music on. You know what I mean? Like if you think about damn, who's somebody else? But you know what I'm saying? It's just like there's a warmth kind of there's a feeling to the music. It gives you something. If you listen to a Tupac record, there's a certain kind of aggressive kind of like violence, like that's him. I'm saying that the energy to the music is core to the person who is making the music. And I think that talking about what we were talking about earlier with the songs and like whether things are good or bad, it's like that doesn't really matter. What matters is the stuff that you're making um core to who you are. It's like the stories that I'm telling are not representative of my everyday life. Like I'm not like this is what I did today or blah blah blah. Like have you seen my son? It is a mix of different things that happened to me, but it's just like the energy of the music that I make is me. Like if you really knew me, you'd be like, this music is this guy. You know what I mean? Like not related to the lyrics and things, but just like the feeling of the music, I think feels like it feels to be around me. You know what I mean? Like, and when you're doing that, it doesn't matter if the song is good or bad. You're just showing people who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, I feel like I just attended a full ass like seminar,
That was good. That was
and I'm
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like I'm just gonna take it like it's gonna probably like take me like a week or so to like just like listen back and just like extract the nuggets that are gonna like just like lead the direction we lead the channel down for the remainder of the year. This has been our longest stream to date, but like
really.
there's been an app without a
Yeah.
shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
We haven't gone this hard since like we were doing our 2021 just like scale back, and we're probably gonna
Yeah.
like move forward all the way until like probably 2019 is the goal, and we're like I think maybe like in a couple weeks, Alor will reconvene for side B for like the records that I picked out. There are like 6 left, so
Mhm.
like we'll probably finish within like an hour and a half like we usually do.
I would love
Um,
to. I can't believe that. I love that you guys had this idea and that you are who you guys are. I guess caring so passionately about the music. It's interesting that you mentioned or we were talking about the Black Men Can't Jump in Hollywood podcast, because it's just like I would if you guys were doing what they do, which is like breaking down full albums, talking about it the way that you guys are talking about it, I would listen to that any day. Like I would
you
listen
know
to
what?
that.
That may be like the
Yeah,
next direction we may have to take things in, because even just like
absolutely.
the very idea of doing this came from just like listening to man, what's that one platform? Um The Ringer,
Dead
The
End
Ringer,
Hint.
The Ringer, The
Oh,
Ringer. They
okay.
had like a song draft for 2012. And I'm like, I don't really like get drafts because I never like did like flat like fantasy football and stuff like that. But I do know that like I know that like Aylor, like he just with the way that like he's just like he's the only other person that I know who like likes the stuff that he likes, and he's cataloged it. And
Yeah,
like it was so much fun for us to do like the one stream, because we did like 24 songs the first stream, and then we're like we
yeah,
need to do 12 more because like we missed so much when we did like the first 2 streams, and like we need to just keep doing this. So
Yeah.
like because then I'm remembering, because like I go to Wikipedia and I go through all the releases, and I'm like, oh shit, that did come out that year. Where was it when I heard that? And just yeah, like this is just like there's a myriad of things, because I feel like when I look at like just like the popular records of that year, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that this didn't like just get even an nth of the coverage
it's
that say
crazy.
maybe even like a One Direction would get,
It's
and just
crazy.
like how that's just kind of spilled over.
It doesn't matter. That book that I was talking to you guys about, the Chuck Klosterman book, about
Mm.
thinking about the past as if it was the present. He talks about that, where it's just like he talks about how rock and roll eventually will be narrowed down to the Beatles or Elvis. When people talk about reggae 100 years from now, the only person that anyone will ever know is Bob Marley. Like no one will
Oh
know
yeah,
anyone else.
Yeah.
and
Like
all the
it just
Wailers.
it doesn't matter. Like that kind of stuff doesn't matter. I don't know. When people the person now who is doing the most interesting stuff, no one knows who that person is. You know what I mean? Like no one knows who that person is.
Can't wait to get to
Yeah.
know them if we ever get a chance to.
We'll hear about them in
And
20 years. You know what I mean?
1000%.
But actually, it might
and
not look like that anymore because of the internet. Like maybe it just doesn't. Maybe we all know this is what it is now. We know pretty much what's out there. I don't know.
I like when the
yeah.
year started, I told myself like, because you get like that Spotify replay of all like the stuff you listened to that year, and I'm like, I'm not satisfied with like my lack of discovery. Like I find like a good like 15 songs I like, and I play those the whole year. I'm like, nah, like I need to like take it one step further, and it has to be something maniacal. And so like I have been listening, like I've decided to like I'm gonna like take every day this year. I'm gonna make a post online and be like, I listened to this song today and I had never heard it before. And
Wow.
like I'm really just like getting into like the stratosphere because like you spend any time on TikTok and like the algorithm figure out what you want to see. I'm seeing a bunch of like folk across like the galaxy putting out shit. And I'm just like, I ain't never heard this shit before. Like today, like today's post was about like this black sister who lives in Korea who wanted to make a parody of Moo by Doja Cat, but it's about, oh, I'm going to my favorite local spot and getting some sweet pork, but it's just over like this lo-fi hip hop beat. And I'm just like, she's speaking fluent Korean, and like it's like like straight from like the motherland sister. And I'm like, bro, this shit is kind of crazy.
That's
and
wild.
like it's like her first ever song, and I'm like, I'm gonna be following Shorty for a minute. Like,
That's
I'm like,
so
shout out to Donna Golden. Like,
Yeah.
if she's popping off in a year, it's like, bro, like I remember that first fucking like 2-minute single that like became like a full-fledged song. And I'm like, bro, like this, I need to like to stay digging through like the digital crates in this way. Cause like I was that one asshole who heard like Fireflies by like Owl City because it was like the free single. And I'm like, this shit ain't nothing. Like this isn't gonna go nowhere. Like, and like a month later, like all my classmates know the song. And I'm like, that song I deleted from my library like a month ago is now like a top 40 hit. Mr. Boat. Mr.
Yeah.
Boat.
But at the same time, you know, that you kind of need to keep your interest authentically on you, because one thing I'm really lucky that I'm really glad that Teenage Me was so, I kind of lost it a bit as I got older, but Teenage Me was like really about like archiving, keeping playlists and stuff like that. So like when I look back at like what I was on in 2009, 2010, 2011, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, this is very much like this was where my relationship was with stuff. And yeah, there's stuff I was into that was like pretty popular in the mainstream zeitgeist, but then, like a Kendrick Lamar, but then, there's stuff that I owe that to the fact that I kept on looking for stuff, and I kept on looking for stuff that I knew resonated with me, even if it wasn't being like heralded in mainstream sectors,
Yep, you gotta do
it. Before we like go to another half hour unintentionally, so Ben, is there anything you want to like plug to the world before we let you go?
Mm-hmm. I don't think that I have anything to plug. Thank you for having me, and I'll come back whenever you guys want. I'll send you some music, and yeah.
Oh my god!
I'll plug a book.
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Isabel Wilkerson.
She's a great writer, and she's also fine.
Oh my
god! But for real though, that's one of those books that this is, as far as the classics go. You were talking about Freddie Gibbs, changing
Origins of Our Discontents,
changing the game. This is one of those books that will change kind of how Black people see themselves in America from now on. I think so. Everyone should read this book by Isabel Wilkerson.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna link that to the into the comments when I finish this stream. Like, definitely like get a screen grab of that, y'all.
Also, I'll give y'all some one more.
Yes, sir.
Hit up my lady.
Ooh, that shit is wow, Morgan Parker.
Over here. Also, let me give you one more.
Do that.
Keep on.
I am wearing a
I've been looking at the whole stream. I'm like,
I'm wearing a sweatshirt from a company called Colored Publishing, but they also do these art books and things like that. I just tell you this because if you look at my Instagram stories and stuff, I try to post a lot of stuff. I think it's important for Black artists to share other Black artists.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You got to promote it.
You got to promote it.
So read Morgan Parker, read Isabel Wilkerson, and then check out Color Printing. There's a really cool, I think it's called Philadelphia Print Shop. There's a cool Black-owned place in Philadelphia. Do you know this place?
I've definitely seen their name, and
they make cool stuff. So those are the only things that I got. But yeah, I'll be back. I'll see you guys soon. I'm sure.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, and absolutely, once again, when we have to talk about 2017, I cannot think of a single reason why we should not bring you back. I mean,
I'll do it.
among
2018, really,
other.
I think that people are gonna look back at history as 2018 being a big music year. 2018 was really.
Oh.
I can't even fathom when we go talk about then. My lord.
I want to say
Yeah,
that some rap songs came out that year.
That was a really big year for rap, though, for sure. Wasn't that? I think that was like, was that the year the Bad and Bougie dropped? Because like I know that was just like a meteorite
No, I
hitting
think
the earth.
I think it was like late 2016, early 2017. Like, that's when like Bad Bougie's like really on it.
It's a great
There's
time.
no.
I'll leave with this. I was telling somebody the other day, it's so exciting. I'm so excited to be alive, just living. But like I was thinking about the last decade and fucking the some rap songs, Blonde, Solange, A Seat at the Table, like just the ridiculous. I was like, we're in a. I was like because I when in school you read about the Harlem Renaissance and stuff like that. I was like, this shit is happening right now. I was
Agreed.
like, my man Colson Whitehead is winning back-to-back Pulitzer prizes. Like, it's crazy right now. But really, when I started thinking about it, it's like the Renaissance started as soon as they let us out. You know what I mean? It's just like we're talking jazz, we're talking rock and roll, we're talking inventing popular music. We're talking about writers like Maya Angelou, James Baldwin. It's just like this is going to be hundreds of years of us just fucking killing it. And like when you think about it like that, it's just like it's a beautiful thing. I'm happy to be a part of it. Let's do it. All right. I love it.
Here, here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to this all to the way. I mean, yes, I understand. You're not that busy, but still, like, really, did this is a complete. I mean, granted, not to get biblical, but this is a complete blessing. For
you got to help people out. I only help people because people help me. When I was younger, when I reached out to like TV on the radio, they messaged me back. When somebody messages you about podcasting, you got to message them back. You got to do it. All right.
Listen, like be safe on that side of the world. Be safe on that side of the earth. Give our regards to the family, and we will be in touch in a couple of months. Believe that.
Cool, yeah. If not weeks. Thank you.
My God.
Without a doubt,
we did it.
Yeah.
I think 3.5 hours of content. It's done. If like for those who stuck around for the entire thing, there's still one of y'all left. We love you. We thank you. Please have a spectacular week. Like, go get some sleep. Please. Get up, go pee.
Please.
Wrap yourself in a nice blanket, and we will see you very, very soon. Aelor, Arkansas, the living abstraction himself, please say goodbye to the people out there in the world.
Hey, goodbye. Good luck. Thank you so much. I mean, I love a lot of our shows. I look back at a lot of our shows.
That's one yet. No cap.
Wonderful. But yeah, this is a show that I am like, I'm like, no exaggeration. I'm thankful for all our shows, but this is without a doubt the one that's like number one, like absolute number one, and the most thankful that we've done. And we wouldn't have been able to do it if we hadn't been so consistent on being on this road that that Chris thankfully helped get us on. And well, well, one thing I have to, I'm definitely gonna have to go to bed, but I'm just grateful.
Me too.
But thank you, guys. Thank you, Miss Chamai. Thank you, Miss Chamai, who
One last thing I almost forgot.
mhm.
If you go into the comments, you will see social media. You will see Benjamin's website. You will see some mutual aid for trans healthcare. And you will see the website for subtlesmile.com from our good friend V.
Yes, thank you,
A brief
V. Thank you so much, V.
reminder. Subtle Sadness 2023, the Elite 8 is currently up and active on my Twitter account. It is the pinned tweet. Please vote, please listen, and please retweet. I think that's everything. I think we hit all the points. Now, for real this time,
Yeah.
Mr. Aylor, say goodbye to the people so we can go to bed.
Just as I say on my own show, goodbye, but not farewell.
Thanks again. We love you.
Mhm.
Until next time.